Chapter 1120. Emperor's Aura. Chu Fengmian could clearly feel the presence of the Emperor's aura from the giant blood snake. The leader of the Blood Snake clan, the Blood Snake Emperor, was a quasi-emperor. "Little guy, why did you come to kill the people of my Blood Snake clan?" The Blood Snake Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian with his huge eyes and suddenly spoke in human language. According to the rumors, the intelligence of blood demons was extremely low. There were very few who had intelligence, but the Blood Snake Emperor was an exception. He actually understood human language and had intelligence. The formation of the Blood Snake clan should have been created by the Blood Snake Emperor. Trespassing into the territory of my Blood Snake clan is a capital offense. The Blood Snake Emperor spoke again. "Seeing that you still have some strength, you can cripple your own cultivation now. This Emperor only wants your blood essence, and I will spare your life." The Blood Snake Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian. As a quasi-emperor, he could naturally see that no matter how strong Chu Fengmian was, he was only at the heavenly mandate realm. Compared to a quasi-emperor, Chu Fengmian was even less than an ant. Of course, if he wanted Chu Fengmian to die, Chu Fengmian must die. Haha. Chu Fengmian didn't answer. Instead, he suddenly laughed when he heard the Blood Snake Emperor's words. "Little guy, what are you laughing at?" The Blood Snake Emperor's eyes changed, and his murderous intent shrouded over. "Let me tell you, little guy, your only chance now is to kneel down and risk your blood essence. Otherwise, you'll be devoured by me. I feel an ancient aura from your body." "What is it? Ancient battle dragon?" "No, it's even more ancient than the ancient battle dragon. But no matter what it is, my strength will improve after I devour it. Make your choice. Do you want to give me your blood essence or wait for me to devour you?" "What are you laughing at?" "Of course, I'm laughing at your arrogance. Even if you become a quasi-emperor, you're just a beast. How dare you call yourself a sovereign?" Chu Fengmian took a step forward and his eyes were cold. "Give you my blood essence? You're not worthy. The bloodstone in your body must have no essence. Once I obtain your bloodstone, it will be enough for my bloodline to advance to the next level. You're courting death." Before Chu Fengmian's voice faded, the Blood Snake Emperor's anger had already reached its peak. He was the overlord of the blood world, and even a quasi-emperor would not dare to go against him. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was just a little guy. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had said that he would take his bloodstone. This was the same as wanting his life. "I'll let you have a taste of a quasi-emperor's might. Die, brat." The ancient serpent emperor bellowed as his massive body charged towards Chu Fengmian. His massive body was as fast as lightning as he charged towards Chu Fengmian in an instant. "You want to compete with me in strength?" A hint of a smile flashed across Chu Fengmian's eyes. "Let's see who's stronger today." Soaring snake transformation. The soaring serpent phantom instantly condensed behind Chu Fengmian's back. Chu Fengmian felt that his body's strength had swelled by dozens of times. He immediately threw a punch in the face of this incomparably huge body. Crack! The moment this punch was thrown, the space trembled. Even a great supremacy would not be able to withstand the punch of the soaring snake transformation. The Blood Snake Emperor in front of him was so huge that his strength would not be weak. This was a good opportunity for Chu Fengmian to see how strong he was. "Are you trying to fight me with your physical body? Are you courting death?" A hint of disdain flashed across the Blood Snake Emperor's eyes when he saw Chu Fengmian's attack. One of the most terrifying aspects of the blood demon race was their strength. They were born in the blood world. It could be said that the blood chi of the blood world was the source of their strength. As a result, their strength was incomparably strong. Even a quasi-emperor would not be able to contend with them head-on. As for Chu Fengmian, a little guy that he did not put in his eyes, he actually wanted to fight him. He was indeed courting death. "Let's see." Chu Fengmian did not argue. His seemingly ordinary punch collided with the Blood Snake Emperor's body in the air. At the moment of collision, the disdainful look on the Blood Snake Emperor's face suddenly changed, revealing a look of horror. His strength was actually vaguely suppressed by Chu Fengmian. This was something that he had never dreamed of. This was the first time the Blood Snake Emperor had encountered such a thing after becoming a quasi-emperor. His strength was actually suppressed. All along, He had thought that only a true sovereign could do this. However, Chu Fengyan, who was just a little guy in his eyes, was actually able to do it. You still want to talk nonsense? Divine War Dragon Fist. Without waiting for the Blood Snake Emperor to speak, Chu Fengyan threw another punch at him in an instant. At the same time, Chu Fengyan exclaimed inwardly. The power of the soaring snake bloodline was indeed extremely terrifying. Even the ancient Snake Emperor was no match for Chu Fengyan's strength in the soaring snake transformation state. Of course, what Chu Fengyan had inherited was only the power of the soaring snake bloodline. As for the rest, Chu Fengyan was still far from being able to use them. However, this power alone was enough. Even Ouyang Li, who had terrifying strength, would be seriously injured if he were to accidentally take a full blow from Chu Fengyan in the soaring snake transformation state. Bang! Another punch bombarded the Blood Snake Emperor's body. The scales on the Blood Snake Emperor's body were constantly shattered by this punch. Even his body was blasted dozens of miles away. Damn it! Damn it! Little guy, I'm going to kill you and eat you alive. This power is the soaring snake bloodline. You actually have the bloodline of the soaring snake bloodline. Once I kill you, my bloodline will transform, and I'll be able to leave this damned place. The Blood Snake Emperor let out a loud roar. He had already understood what the power contained in Chu Fengmian's body was. His eyes became scorching hot. If he could obtain the bloodline of an innate divine beast, his strength and bloodline would undergo earth-shattering changes. At that time, he might even be able to leave the world of fresh blood. One had to know that all the demonic beasts in the world of fresh blood were unable to leave the world of fresh blood. Now, the Blood Snake Emperor saw the hope of leaving the world of fresh blood through Chu Fengmian's body. How could he not be excited? Chapter 1121. The Blood Snake Emperor roared and immediately charged towards Chu Fengmian. His scales turned even redder, and the surrounding blood chi flew towards the Blood Snake Emperor and was devoured by him. At the same time, the Blood Snake Emperor's injuries were instantly healed. Kid, we are all immortal in the world of fresh blood. So what if you're strong? I'd like to see how long your secret technique can last. The Blood Snake Emperor's intelligence was no less than that of a demon god. He could see that Chu Fengmian wasn't using the Soaring Serpent's power, but was forcibly activated by some means. Forcibly activating the power of a quasi-emperor at the Heavenly Mandate realm was an extremely difficult thing to do. Every moment would put a great burden on the body, and it couldn't be maintained for long. In the world of blood, the Blood Snake Emperor could continuously absorb blood chi to heal his injuries. As for the consumption of blood chi, it was abundant in the world of blood. In here, he could be considered as having an immortal body. The Blood Snake Emperor was now entangled with Chu Fengmian, not intending to give Chu Fengmian a chance to escape. As long as he could delay Chu Fengmian until the power of the Soaring Serpent transformation disappeared, he would undoubtedly win. Immortal? Chu Fengmian's lips curled into a cold smile when he heard the Blood Snake Emperor's words. So what if you have an immortal body? Your body can recover 1,000 times. I'll kill you 10,000 times, and see if you can still recover. Titanic Watchtower, unsheath. A huge sword suddenly condensed in Chu Fengmian's left hand and was suddenly unsheathed. The moment the Titanic Watchtower Divine Sword was unsheathed, the aura on Chu Fengmian's body was completely different from before. The sword intent on his body seemed to have condensed to a peak. The sword intent of the Divine Sword Realm. The moment the two swords were unsheathed, Chu Fengmian's sword intent reached its peak and condensed the sword intent of the Divine Sword Realm. This was Chu Fengmian's full strength. The power of the Soaring Serpent transformation and the Divine Sword Realm erupted at the same time. Chu Fengmian's two great origin powers were activated at the same time. This aura was even stronger than that of a quasi-emperor. A dual sword cultivator? How is such a powerful sword intent possible? The Blood Snake Emperor shouted in disbelief as he stared at Chu Fengmian. Even though he had seen countless cultivators who had entered the world of fresh blood, he had only seen such a dual swordsman and such terrifying sword will from Chu Fengmian. The sword will on Chu Fengmian's body was enough to destroy everything. It was as if everything would be destroyed in the face of this sword will. The Blood Serpent Monarch could clearly sense the horror of this force. This level was comparable to that of a great perfection quasi-emperor or even a peak quasi-emperor. And this kind of power actually belonged to a young heavenly fate realm cultivator. While the Blood Snake ruler was shocked, he also made a move. It would be extremely dangerous to sit and wait for death. Even though Chu Fengmian was very strong, his current actions were like walking on tightrope. As long as he could strike Chu Fengmian once, the power in Chu Fengmian's body would dissipate. Blood Serpent Clan, Sacrifice Lachna, Blood Kill. The Blood Serpent Monarch roared, and the blood serpents suddenly shattered, leaving only a bloody mist in the sky. In an instant, he ordered all the blood serpents to sacrifice together. The power of more than 10,000 blood serpents was sacrificed and turned into clouds of bloody mist. The number of blood serpents sacrificed was enough to destroy more than half of the Blood Serpent clan. But now, he couldn't care less. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had a bloodline that could transcend the world of fresh blood. As long as he could kill Chu Fengmian, all the losses could be made up for. Heavenly Blood Star. Kill. Under the control of the Blood Serpent Monarch, the bloody mist suddenly condensed into the shape of a giant axe in the air. This giant axe was condensed from the essence and blood of 10,000 blood serpents. The bloody mist on it was self-evident. The moment the giant blood axe condensed, the entire bloody desert trembled. Even the space was trembling. An extremely terrifying power burned and blasted towards Chu Fengmian. He actually sacrificed his clan? Chu Fengmian didn't expect the Blood Serpent Monarch to be so ruthless. In order to deal with Chu Fengmian, he actually chose to sacrifice his clan. But for these demon emperors, their clan was their power. The power obtained by sacrificing their clan was also their trump card. The power of 10,000 blood serpents gathered together was already extremely terrifying, not to mention that they were sacrificing together. This attack was the strongest attack of the Blood Serpent Monarch, but Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid. He still had half of the time left in his soaring serpent transformation. Coupled with the great sword light and sword will, Chu Fengmian was now in his strongest state. Come on then, double sword break the sky. All of you break. Chu Fengmian took a step forward and rushed towards the giant blood axe. The power of the two spiritual swords erupted at the same time, turning into a sword light that soared into the sky. Two sword lights soared into the sky at the same time, meeting the giant blood axe. Little guy, do you really think I want to fight you head-on? Just as the two forces were about to collide, a sudden change occurred. As the blood-red axe was about to collide with Qin Nan, it suddenly transformed into an enormous vortex. The vortex was so deep that one couldn't see the bottom of it. The two sword chis that were tens of thousands of feet long were mercilessly devoured by the vortex. What kind of power is this? Devouring? The power of these two sword chi was actually devoured? Chu Fengmian's face was filled with horror as he retreated abruptly. His sword Dao had already reached the sword body realm and was close to the sword Dao quintessence. It would be extremely difficult for him to resist the sword chi at this level, let alone devouring it. Sky Devouring Secret Skill. This is the Sky Devouring Secret Skill. Just as Chu Fengmian was shocked, Xing Xian's voice suddenly appeared in Chu Fengmian's mind. His tone was even more shocked than Chu Fengmian's. Sky Devouring Secret Skill? What kind of martial technique is that? Chu Fengmian had never heard of the Sky Devouring Secret Skill, so he hurriedly asked. The Sky Devouring Secret Skill is not a martial technique, but a secret skill that only the Sky Devouring Beast knows. How could this little blood serpent know the Sky Devouring Secret Skill? This kind of secret skill can only be used by those who possess the bloodline of the Sky Devouring Beast. Could it be that the blood serpent's body contains the bloodline of the Sky Devouring Beast? Xing Xian explained. Chapter 1122. A Sky Devouring Beast. Chu Fengmian did not know much about the Sky Devouring secret technique, but he knew about the Sky Devouring Beast. The Sky Devouring Beast was a famous, innate divine beast that was on par with the soaring serpent and primogenitor Tianlong. Its ability was to devour the heavens and devour everything. It was said that the sky-devouring beast wanted to devour the heavens, which led to its destruction. As for its bloodline, Chu Feng had never heard of it. The Blood Serpent Emperor actually knew the sky-devouring secret technique and possessed the bloodline of the sky-devouring beast. Before Chu Fengyan could think, the Blood Serpent Emperor burst into laughter. "Kit, what's wrong? Is there no way to deal with the sky-devouring secret technique? Just wait to be devoured by the sky-devouring secret technique." In an instant, the Blood Serpent Emperor struck again. A huge vortex suddenly appeared in front of Chu Fengyan. The vortex was so big that it seemed like it was going to devour Chu Fengyan. Oh no, retreat. Even if you have the power of the soaring serpent transformation, you can't resist the sky-devouring secret technique. The sky-devouring beast and the soaring serpent are innate divine beasts of the same level. However, your cultivation level is far below the Blood Serpent Emperor's. If this goes on, you will be devoured by him. Xing Xian shouted anxiously in Chu Feng's mind. Once Chu Fengyan was sucked into the vortex, he would be completely devoured. There would be no chance for him to escape. I know. Phantom body technique, run. Chu Fengyan used all his strength to resist the vortex. At the same time, he pushed his body technique to the maximum. However, regardless of how far Chu Fengyan was able to fly in an instant, the frightening attractive force would always pull Chu Fengyan back to his original location. It was as if the vortex was following behind Chu Fengyan at all times. Chu Fengyan could not get rid of it despite using countless methods. Don't even think about escaping. Once you fall into the hands of the sky-devouring secret technique, you won't be able to escape. The Blood Serpent Emperor looked at Chu Fengyan and laughed sinisterly. I was born with the sky-devouring bloodline. If I add the soaring serpent bloodline to the two innate divine beast bloodlines, my future will be limitless. I might even surpass the innate realm. Brat, in order to thank you, I won't torture you this time. I'll directly devour you. The Blood Serpent Emperor roared loudly. At the same time, he pushed his power to the limit. The vortex behind Chu Fengyan started to grow bigger and bigger. This terrifying power made Chu Fengyan somewhat unable to withstand it. This won't do. If this goes on, I'll be devoured sooner or later. However, the power of this heaven-devouring secret skill prevents me from escaping at all. Even the power of Tianlong transformation cannot withstand it. Danger. The more dangerous the situation Chu Fengyan was in, the calmer his mind was. The power of the Emperor Jar doesn't work either. What should I do? Could it be that he had to use the Bloodslayer Demon Sword? The last time I used it, I almost died. This is the world of blood. It's extremely dangerous. If I use it, there's a 90% chance that I'll be killed. In the face of the heaven-devouring secret skill, Chu Fengyan was afraid that he wouldn't be able to break it even if he used the power of the Emperor Jar. Only the power of the Bloodslayer Demon Sword could do that. However, once he used the Bloodslayer Demon Sword, Chu Fengyan would fall into endless danger like the last time. Furthermore, this place was different from other places. This was the world of blood. If Chu Fengyan lost his power, anyone would kill him. Therefore, Chu Fengyan wouldn't use the Bloodslayer Demon Sword unless it was absolutely necessary. It had to be used at the last moment. Brat, you still want to struggle? All your trump cards are meaningless in the face of the heaven-devouring secret skill. Stop struggling and be devoured by me. The Blood Serpent Emperor laughed sinisterly. As he laughed, the sky and earth suddenly shook and the bloody desert below started to churn. The endless bloody desert was forcibly torn apart by a force. At the same time, a massive Emperor's aura shrouded the area. Within this Emperor's aura, there was a supreme killing move. The extreme killing intent was enough to send chills down one's spine. Two figures suddenly appeared at the center of the rift. It was these two figures that had forcibly torn the blood desert apart. What's going on? Two quasi-emperors? Why did two quasi-emperors suddenly appear? Chu Fengyan's face changed drastically when the two auras appeared. These two figures were quasi-emperors. At this critical moment, two quasi-emperors suddenly appeared. Could it be that quasi-emperors were like cabbages? Why did two of them suddenly appear? It's as the ancient serpent chamber of commerce said. This brat is indeed here. The two figures were thin and small men. Their gazes suddenly fell on Chu Fengmian, and the corners of their mouths curled up into a smile. That's right. The person that the Lei and Hua families want to kill is indeed him. Oh, this brat can actually fight against the Blood Serpent Emperor to such an extent? It seems like he does have some skills. No wonder he dares to go against the Hua and Lei families. The other figure observed for a while and said with some surprise, "However, since our hidden killer society has accepted this task, we have to do it beautifully. Today, we'll kill this brat first. However, this Blood Serpent Emperor is almost out of strength. Let's kill it together with this brat." The two men conversed with their spiritual consciousness. Although it was hidden, they couldn't hide it from Chu Fengmian. Hidden Killer Society? It's actually the Hidden Killer Society, the most mysterious assassin force in the ancient Serpent Nation. These two quasi-emperors are actually here to kill me? The Lei and Hua families. Are these assassins hired by the Lei and Hua families? Damn it, the ancient Serpent Chamber of Commerce actually sold me out. No wonder they offered such generous conditions. So that's the reason. Hearing the conversation between the two, Chu Fengmian immediately understood what the ancient Serpent Chamber of Commerce was planning. They told Chu Fengmian about the treasure land and asked him to come over. Then, they told the Lei and Hua families about Chu Fengmian's whereabouts. Then, the Hidden Killer Society's assassins came to assassinate him. Vicious. Chu Fengmian didn't expect the ancient Serpent Chamber of Commerce to be so vicious that they wanted to kill him. At the same time, Chu Fengmian was incomparably shocked. How did the ancient Serpent Chamber of Commerce find out about his identity? However, Chu Fengmian didn't bother to think about it. The ancient Serpent Chamber of Commerce, Hua family and Lei family had already been listed in Chu Fengmian's list of enemies. As long as Chu Fengmian didn't die today, he would definitely eliminate these three major forces in the future. However, before that, Chu Fengmian had to escape from the Blood Serpent Emperor and the two great assassins of the Hidden Killer Society. The three quasi-emperors before him wanted Chu Fengmian dead. Chapter 11:23. Misfortunes never come singly. Chu Fengmian was already in a precarious situation when facing the Blood Snake Emperor. Who would have thought that two assassins from the Hidden Killer Society would intervene? The Hua family and the Lei family really thought highly of Chu Fengmian. They actually sent two quasi-emperors to kill Chu Fengmian. One had to know that the reward for hiring two quasi-emperors was astronomical. Chu Fengmian's current situation was even more precarious than before. The slightest carelessness could lead to eternal damnation. Martialists, why have you come to the territory of the Blood Snake clan? The Blood Snake Emperor asked coldly as he looked at the two quasi-emperors from the Hidden Killer Society. The assassins of the Hidden Killer Society weren't demon immortals, but human martialists. In the path of assassination, humans were much more advanced than demon immortals. This is the territory of the Blood Snake clan. You should leave quickly and forget about trespassing. This is the territory of the Blood Snake clan. How can a mere Blood Snake Emperor be a match for the two kings of assassins of the Hidden Killer Society? One of them looked at the Blood Snake Emperor and said disdainfully, "Ming Sha, there's no need to talk nonsense with the Blood Snake Emperor. Just kill him. The bloodstone in his body can be sold for a good price." "All right then. Ming Sha, you deal with that brat. I'll deal with the Blood Snake Emperor." The two kings of assassins of the Hidden Killer Society confirmed their targets at the same time. Not only did they want to kill Chu Fengmian, but they also wanted to kill the Blood Snake Emperor. Ming Sha, Ming Sha. These two are the Ming Sha and Ming Sha of the four kings of assassins of the Hidden Killer Society. Chu Fengmian instantly knew the identities of these two men when he heard their conversation. It was said that there were four kings of assassins in the Hidden Killer Society. They were the Qi, Mei, Wang, and Liang. The two men before him were the Wang and Liang. The Lei family and the Hua family had really invested a lot of money to get these two kings of assassins to attack Chu Fengmian at the same time. Fortunately, These two kings of assassins aren't here to help the Blood Snake Emperor deal with me. Otherwise, I would definitely be dead. But now, I might still have a chance to escape. Chu Fengmian had already experienced countless life-and-death battles. He could escape from any danger. For Chu Fengmian, as long as there was a slim chance of survival, he could grasp it and escape with his life. The appearance of the two kings of assassins, Wang and Liang, brought a greater crisis to Chu Fengmian, but also made the scene more chaotic. This was an opportunity for Chu Fengmian. Damn it, a puny little martial artist dares to kill this emperor? I want to devour you alive too. Hearing Wang Sha's words, the Blood Snake Emperor was enraged. Previously, Chu Fengmian had said that he had taken his bloodstone. This had already infuriated the Blood Snake Emperor. Now that another person had said so, he was even more enraged. The gigantic body of the Blood Snake Emperor charged towards Wang Sha and struck out with his fists. As for Wang Sha, he was not to be outdone. In an instant, a dagger appeared in his hand. With a wave of the dagger, a river suddenly appeared in front of him. Within this river, every stream was a supreme killing move. Thousands of killing moves formed the long river of killing path. This was a power that could only be displayed when one's assassination path had reached the pinnacle. The long river of killing path rushed towards the Blood Snake Emperor. Damn it! Devour! The Blood Snake ruler sensed the danger and immediately retracted all of his spiritual power. It transformed into a vortex and condensed in front of him to resist the murderous river. At that moment, the pressure on Chu Fengmian's body suddenly disappeared. Even the Blood Snake Emperor could not multitask. When facing a quasi-emperor, he had to use his full strength. Let's go. The moment the pressure on Chu Fengmian disappeared, he did not hesitate. He immediately urged his escape light to leave. Not good. However, the moment the escape light was urged, Chu Fengmian instinctively felt uneasy. He hurriedly changed his direction. A blood-red light suddenly attacked Chu Fengmian. As long as Chu Fengmian hadn't stopped and changed his direction, this blood-red light would have been enough to kill him. This kind of killing was not a physical killing. It was the pinnacle of the assassination path. It was a one-hit kill. No matter how strong one's vitality was, if one's body was destroyed in an instant, one would not be able to recover. If Chu Fengmian had not experienced countless life-and-death battles and was extremely calm and not impulsive, he would have died just now. Oh, you were actually able to dodge this blade? It seems that you are indeed more mysterious than the rumors say. No one below the quasi-emperor level has ever been able to dodge my blade. A figure slowly appeared the moment the blood-red blade appeared. This figure was Wang Sha, the king of assassins of the Hidden Death Society. Wang Sha was a skinny old man. He looked at Chu Fengmian with a faint smile. Traces of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He looked like a ferocious tiger. He was staring intently at his prey. If Chu Fengmian showed the slightest flaw, he would not hesitate to chop off his head. Kill Chu Fengmian. What a pity. Such a genius will eventually die in my hands. I heard that you are from the dragon race. But so what if you are for the dragon race? I, the Hidden Death Society, don't care about status. No one can avenge you if I kill you. Kid, remember not to offend people you shouldn't offend in your next life. Wang Sha sized up Chu Fengmian and saw that Chu Fengmian's realm was indeed the same as the information he had received. He was only at the Heaven's Mandate realm, so he did not care. Wang Sha took a step forward and suddenly attacked. A short dagger appeared in his hand. Martial artists who practiced the assassination path used short daggers, which were easy to hide in and could be unsheathed at any time. The moment the short dagger was unsheathed, the murderous intent that filled the sky condensed and turned into blades in the air. In an instant, thousands of blades condensed in front of Chu Fengmian, forming a world of blades. This move was much more mysterious than any blade technique Chu Fengmian had ever seen. Even Gongsun Tianjue, the genius of that generation, could not compare with Wang Sha in front of him. Sanguine killing 9 styles. Chu Fengmian had never seen such a blade technique before. It was obviously a blade technique from the ancient monster continent, which was also very mysterious. First, I'll find a flaw and then activate the Tianlong transformation to leave. I'll deal with these two kings of assassins in the future. Chu Fengmian made a decision in an instant. Soaring Serpent Power, 10,000 sword afterimages. The Soaring Serpent power boiled up and poured into the spiritual swords in Chu Fengmian's hands. In an instant, the power burst out and tens of thousands of sword shadows soared into the sky. Chapter 1124. The two kings of assassins in front of him might not be as difficult to deal with as the Blood Snake Emperor, but the battle with the Blood Snake Emperor had already exhausted most of Chu Fengmian's trump cards. In particular, the power of the Soaring Serpent transformation could only last for 2 more attacks. Without the support of the Soaring Serpent transformation, Chu Fengmian's strength was definitely at a disadvantage against a quasi-emperor. After all, Chu Fengmian's realm was still not enough to contend against a quasi-emperor. He still relied on the power of the Soaring Serpent transformation to fight against a quasi-emperor. It could be said that the Soaring Serpent transformation was Chu Fengmian's trump card against a quasi-emperor. In the battle with the Blood Snake Emperor, the Soaring Serpent transformation's power had already been exhausted by more than half. He originally wanted to conserve some of his strength, but Wu Sha clearly did not intend to give Chu Fengmian such an opportunity. Even a quasi-emperor would find it difficult to resist the sky full of blades without using his full strength. Sword break. Beside Chu Fengmian, tens of thousands of sword shadows soared into the sky and collided with the blades. Whether it was the sword or the blades, they were all shattered and disappeared. They are actually in a stalemate. Wu Sha's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise when he saw the stalemate. He had used his full strength in this move, but Chu Fengmian was still able to resist it. It seemed that the rumors were true. Chu Fengmian did indeed have the strength to contend against a quasi-emperor. He did not believe it at first, but now it seemed that it was true. Wu Sha looked at Chu Fengmian and sized him up, then suddenly laughed. I see. It seems that you have obtained the Soaring Serpent bloodline of the young master of the whole clan. I just did not expect you to be able to use the power of the Soaring Serpent bloodline freely. This is the power of the Soaring Serpent bloodline, right? However, you should not be able to use it too many times in a short period of time. Very well, I will kill you, and the Soaring Serpent bloodline will belong to me. In order to obtain the Soaring Serpent bloodline, I will kill you today, even if you have a great background. Wu Sha looked at Chu Fengmian with excitement. Chu Fengmian was only in the Heavenly Fate realm, but he could use the power of the Soaring Serpent bloodline to contend against a quasi-emperor. If he obtained the Soaring Serpent bloodline and used his quasi-emperor power, his strength would be close to that of a true sovereign. When he thought of this, Wu Sha could no longer wait. He attacked again without any hesitation. A pitch-black figure enveloped him from behind. This pitch-black figure was wrapped in a black robe. Chu Fengmian knew that this was the creator of the way of assassination, the god of assassins. His figure was extremely mysterious, and no one knew what he looked like. The pitch-black figure's aura reached its peak the moment it enveloped Wu Sha's body. "Break!" he shouted angrily. Rumble. The sword shadows that filled the sky were all blown to smithereens. At the same time, Ba Sha charged towards Chu Fengmian, his dagger stabbing towards Chu Fengmian's chest. Chu Fengmian hurriedly used the 2 spiritual swords to block in front of him. However, he felt a terrifying power from the stab of the dagger, and his body was sent flying. Chu Fengmian's 5 viscera and 6 bowels were all shaken. He only slowly recovered after flying for dozens of miles. Then, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Damn it! If the power of the Soaring Serpent transformation had not been exhausted, I might have been able to put up a fight. But now, the Soaring Serpent transformation is only left with the power of the last attack. I can't use it anymore. I must find an opportunity to kill him with one strike. Chu Fengmian cursed inwardly. These 2 great assassins were simply taking advantage of the situation. If Chu Fengmian used all his strength, even if he could not defeat Wu Sha, he would be able to fight a bloody battle with him and force him to retreat. It would be easy for him to escape unscathed. But now, he was forced into such a situation. Opportunity flaw. This person must have a flaw. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. Shu Sha's figure had already caught up with him. Oh, your body is quite tough. You didn't suffer any injuries? Shu Sha looked at Chu Fengmian and sneered. It seems like you can't use the soaring serpent bloodline anymore. Without the soaring serpent bloodline, you are just an ant. The next strike, I will take your life. Shu Sha's blade was slowly accumulating power. It seemed like he was about to launch a thunderous strike. Wait, King of Assassins. You dare to kill me? Aren't you afraid of the people behind me? Chu Fengmian suddenly asked. His eyes were deep and unfathomable. The people from Malay and Hua families dare not kill me. They only dare to send people from the Secret Assassin Society. Aren't you afraid that the Secret Assassin Society will be annihilated if you kill me? Humph, I don't care who you are. The Secret Assassin Society doesn't care about the identity of the people we want to kill. Moreover, you have the soaring serpent bloodline. Even if the people from the Lei and Hua families don't want your life, I, Shu Sha, will kill you. Shu Sha said disdainfully. He had killed many people, including countless members of major factions. However, he did not have any qualms about killing. If you want to beg for mercy, it is already too late. Your soaring serpent bloodline has already merged with your bloodline. Aside from killing you, there is no other way to take it away. Is that so? Then take a look at this claw. Chu Fengmian did not argue. Suddenly, he gathered his spiritual energy and turned it into a war dragon claw. The 1,000 formations on this war dragon claw all activated, turning it into the appearance of primogenitor Tianlong. Upon seeing the war dragon claw, Shu Sha's expression suddenly changed. A dragon race secret technique. This is a supreme dragon race secret technique. How can this be? Could you be the next dragon monarch of the Divine Dragon Empire? That's not right. If you're not the next dragon monarch, then who are you? Even the Divine Dragon Empire's princes are not qualified to practice it. Could you be from there? Someone actually came out from there? At this moment, an idea suddenly popped into Sadhu's mind. That's not right. While Shu Sha was distracted, Chu Fengmian suddenly made his move. The power of the soaring serpent infused into the two swords. Then the war dragon claw suddenly swept out. Crack! The war dragon claw's sweep struck the pitch-black image behind Shu Sha, shattering it. At the same time, the two swords slashed at Shu Sha. Damn it, brat, you actually launched a sneak attack. Shu Sha instantly understood what was going on. He was both shocked and furious. He gathered his spiritual energy to the limit and formed a long river in front of him. It was as if the two sides of this long river were divided into two different worlds. No matter how strong one was, one could not cross this long river. Tianlong transformation. At this moment, Chu Fengmian suddenly withdrew his spirit energy. A whirlpool suddenly appeared behind him. His body stepped into the whirlpool and disappeared without a trace. Damn it! Chapter 1125. At the edge of the bloody world, a piece of gravel was drifting in the bloody world. If one were to observe carefully, they would be able to see a small crack on the gravel. However, if one did not pay close attention to it, they would not be able to notice it. Moreover, no warrior would be willing to put their energy into such a small piece of gravel. In the heart of the gravel, a figure was sitting cross-legged. This figure was Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian had taken advantage of Shu Sha's hesitation to suddenly attack. Shu Sha thought that Chu Fengmian wanted to die, but at that time, Chu Fengmian was ready to escape. He directly used the power of Tianlong transformation to tear the space and escape. Then, he found this piece of broken stone and snuck into it to recover his strength. Fortunately, Shu Sha hesitated at the last moment, which gave me an opportunity to escape. Otherwise, unless I used the Bloodslayer Demon Sword, it would be almost impossible to escape. Chu Fengmian secretly rejoiced. His last words were actually to deceive Shu Sha. It seemed that Shu Sha really thought that there was a force behind Chu Fengmian, which was why he hesitated for a while and gave Chu Fengmian the opportunity to escape. It seems that the ancient Serpent Empire is not as simple as it seems. The existence of the Hidden Killer Society is a proof. Since the Hidden Killer Society is hidden, there should be other hidden forces. Moreover, The 8 great royal families are not as simple as they seem. Chu Fengmian calculated in his heart. When dealing with the Blood Serpent Emperor, he was a little reckless, which gave Wang Sha and Zhu Sha the opportunity. Fortunately, Chu Fengmian escaped. However, this adventure was not without gains. Chu Fengmian took away the bloodstones in the body of the myriad blood serpent. At the same time, he also took away the bloodstones hidden under the bloody desert. Adding the bloodstones in the body of the divine saber fifth ancestor that Chu Fengmian had killed, the number of bloodstones in Chu Fengmian's body should have exceeded 100,000. When I break through and reach the ultimate realm, the Blood Serpent Emperor, Wang Sha, and Zhu Sha will all die. Chu Fengmian's eyes were brimming with murderous intent. He had almost been robbed, and his boat capsized in the gutter. In such a dangerous situation, the slightest bit of carelessness would have resulted in him being consigned to eternal damnation. Chu Fengmian already had an irreconcilable enmity with the Ancient Snake Merchant Association and the Secret Killer Society. Of course, Chu Fengmian would not let the Lei and Hua families off either. However, Chu Fengmian's greatest opponents were still the 2 quasi-emperors, Wang Sha and Hou Sha, the kings of assassins. Although Chu Fengmian had left temporarily, the 2 of them were definitely still in the bloody world hunting Chu Fengmian down. Chu Fengmian was clear about the rules of the Secret Killer Society. Since they had decided to kill Chu Fengmian, they would not give up halfway. The 2 of them were probably still searching for Chu Fengmian in the world of blood, planning to kill him. Fortunately, the world of fresh blood was so vast that it was not easy for the 2 quasi-emperors to find Chu Fengmian quickly. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had already concealed his aura. Even if they used their spiritual sense to sweep over him, they would not be able to find him. Since I've obtained enough bloodstones, I'll devour them first. As long as I have enough power, I will destroy the Ancient Snake Merchant Association and the Secret Killer Society one by one. Power. What Chu Fengmian lacked was power. Although Chu Fengmian's strength was no different from a quasi-emperor under the state of the soaring serpent transformation, he could only last for a period of time. But Tongue Snake transformation could only last for a minute. Chu Fengmian had used Tongue Snake transformation to fight Blood Snake King, but Wang Sha and Hou Sha had taken advantage of him. Chu Fengmian had almost been killed by them. Only when Chu Fengmian truly stepped into the celestial stage and his bloodline was upgraded again would Chu Fengmian possess the strength to fight against a quasi-emperor. Bloodstones. Chu Fengmian's mind moved, and all the bloodstones in his empty ring flew out. Chu Fengmian did not hesitate and suddenly opened his mouth. These bloodstones all fell into Chu Fengmian's mouth and turned into pure spiritual energy that was constantly refined by Chu Fengmian. Now, Chu Fengmian had a total of 110,000 bloodstones in his hand. Now, Chu Fengmian was ready to use the power of these 110,000 bloodstones to upgrade his bloodline and raise his cultivation level. Battle Dragon Art. Chu Fengmian activated the power of the Battle Dragon bloodline in his body to the extreme. These bloodstones merged into Chu Fengmian's body, causing his Battle Dragon bloodline to undergo earth-shattering changes. Soon, these 110,000 bloodstones were directly devoured by Chu Fengmian's body. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's aura gradually stabilized. However, this was only the beginning. The power of these bloodstones had started to merge with the Battle Dragon bloodline in Chu Fengmian's body. They started to merge into one. Gradually, an ancient power started to awaken in the Battle Dragon bloodline. The ancient Battle Dragon is said to be the bloodline closest to the primogenitor Tianlong. Indeed, it has started to awaken the power of primogenitor Tianlong. It was said that the ancient Battle Dragon was the first-generation bloodline created by primogenitor Tianlong. Its power was infinitely close to the level of primogenitor Tianlong. The powerful ancient Battle Dragon could also break through the void and roam the world like primogenitor Tianlong. However, such existences were the kings and emperors of the ancient Battle Dragon. Chu Fengmian's first level of Battle Dragon art had reached the pinnacle, but he was only at the level of an ordinary ancient Battle Dragon. This ancient power was originally far beyond Chu Fengyan's reach. However, these bloodstones contained the power of a god. They were slowly awakening the power of the most ancient and mysterious primogenitor Tianlong in the ancient battle dragon bloodline. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. A total of 7 days had passed. Chu Fengyan's bloodline was slowly changing. Although there was no change in his cultivation realm, the power of his bloodline was completely different from before. The power of the 110,000 bloodstones had been fully integrated into his bloodline, allowing it to evolve continuously. Roar! In an instant, a dragon roar was heard from Chu Fengyan's back. A total of 9,999 spirit designs appeared on the ancient war dragon's body. The 9,999 spirit designs revolved around the ancient war dragon's body. Chapter 11:26. It was said that the body of the first ancestor heavenly dragon was surrounded by 129,600 formations. Although the battle dragon phantasm before him only had 9,999 formations, at a glance, it already contained some of the first ancestor heavenly dragon's charm. In the memories of the ancient battle dragon clan, the most powerful ancient battle dragon had the opportunity to break through the limit and comprehend 129,600 formations to transform into progenitor Tianlong. Chu Fengyan felt that his current power had undergone a qualitative change. The instant the 9,999 Dharma rays were activated, Chu Fengyan felt a power that wasn't inferior to the soaring serpent transformation. Furthermore, this power was even more natural than the soaring serpent transformation. The power of the soaring serpent transformation was more like an external power that Chu Fengyan borrowed. This power came from Chu Fengyan's bloodline. It was a power that truly belonged to him. At the same time, Chu Fengyan's flesh and blood were undergoing the same transformation. The advancement of his bloodline meant that he had become stronger in all aspects. These 110,000 bloodstones are just enough for me to advance my bloodline once. Chu Fengyan stood up. Suddenly, he couldn't help but frown. What's going on? My cultivation? Why didn't I break through? Originally, according to Chu Fengyan's calculations, the moment his bloodline ascended would also be the moment his cultivation realm broke through. But now, Chu Fengyan's bloodline had ascended. However, his cultivation was still at the heavenly mandate realm. In fact, it had fallen from the peak of the heavenly mandate realm. This caused Chu Fengyan to be somewhat puzzled. Something's not right. My spiritual energy is also a bit stronger than before. Could it be that it's harder to break through the bottleneck? Chu Fengyan observed for a moment and discovered that his spiritual energy hadn't actually decreased. On the contrary, it was even stronger than before. This meant that Chu Fengyan's cultivation hadn't actually decreased. Because of the advancement of his bloodline, the threshold for Chu Fengyan's breakthrough had become even higher. The more talented a cultivator was, the more powerful their bloodline would be. Therefore, it would be thousands of times more difficult for them to break through compared to ordinary cultivators. For example, Chu Fengyan's every breakthrough was thousands of times more difficult than ordinary cultivators. He didn't expect that the advancement of his bloodline would make it even more difficult for him to break through. This made Chu Fengyan smile bitterly. For others, the advancement of their bloodline was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but Chu Fengyan couldn't bring himself to smile. As a result, Chu Fengyan's original plan to break through had to be delayed again. However, it was a good thing. Chu Fengyan's bloodline represented his future achievements. Bloodstones of Chu's bloodline were of no use. Therefore, he could take advantage of the time before his breakthrough to find more bloodstones to help him advance his bloodline. Right now, I have 9,999 formations. When facing a quasi-emperor, if I work with the soaring serpent transformation, I might be able to kill him in one strike. Even if I cannot defeat him, I should be able to escape safely. The strength of the soaring serpent transformation is also gradually recovering. As Chu Fengyan thought of this, he quietly spread out his spiritual consciousness. It had been 7 days since he sneaked into this piece of broken stone. This piece of broken stone had been flying around in the world of blood. Chu Fengyan didn't know where he was. The world of blood was full of danger. When he encountered the Blood Serpent Emperor, Chu Fengmian already knew that the Blood Serpent Emperor possessed the bloodline of the heaven-devouring beast, which was enough to use the heaven-devouring secret technique. Chu Fengmian was almost swallowed by the Blood Serpent Emperor. Even a quasi-emperor wouldn't find it difficult to deal with the heaven-devouring secret technique. It was no wonder that, according to the rumors, even some quasi-emperors were in danger of dying in the world of blood. If he encountered the ancient Serpent Emperor, even a slightly weaker quasi-emperor would be swallowed by his heaven-devouring secret technique. In the world of blood, the Blood Serpent clan was only considered a small clan. There were many more powerful blood demon clans, and it was said that there were sovereigns in the world of blood. Chu Fengmian had to be careful. This place is actually close to the core of the world of blood. Chu Fengmian observed his surroundings, and, at the same time, according to the information in his memory, he discovered that Chu Fengmian had been constantly cultivating in this place of broken rocks. These broken rocks were constantly drifting in the world of blood and were already drifting towards the core of the world of blood. The place where Chu Fengmian was now could be considered the heart of the bloody world. However, this heart also referred to an extremely large area. It was just that the number of bloodstones in this area would increase by a lot. At a glance, Chu Fengmian discovered more than 100 bloodstones. If he were at the edge, he wouldn't be able to find so many bloodstones even after 2 hours. However, Chu Fengmian didn't care about these bloodstones. The number of bloodstones he needed now was at least in the tens of thousands. A few hundred bloodstones were considered a lot for other martial artists, but for Chu Fengmian, it was just a drop in the bucket. Chu Fengmian had consumed a total of 110,000 bloodstones to upgrade his bloodline this time. The next upgrade would require at least twice that number, at least 220,000 bloodstones. A treasure land. If I encounter a large treasure land, it would contain at least 100,000 bloodstones. If I can find one, I might be able to gather 220,000 bloodstones, Chu Fengmian thought. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. After using the bloodstone to upgrade his bloodline and tasting its sweetness, Chu Fengmian's desire for the bloodstone was even stronger than before. The power of the bloodstones was really amazing. It could upgrade the bloodline of the primordial battle dragon. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Furthermore, the advancement of his bloodline had brought Chu Fengmian such great benefits. If he could advance his bloodline again, then Chu Fengmian would obtain even more benefits. As Chu Fengmian pondered and used his spiritual sense to search for traces of treasures in the surroundings, his eyes suddenly flickered. Not far ahead, there was a desolate planet full of desert. However, Chu Fengmian could clearly see pieces of bloodstones lying on the ground. A treasure land that contains at least 30,000 bloodstones. Chapter 11:27. Something's not right. There are actually some martialists. Chu Fengmian observed that there seemed to be 7 or 8 martialists in a desert on this planet. However, their current situation was not good. This was because there were countless blood demonic beasts densely packed around them. These blood demonic beasts were like eagles, but they looked ferocious. Fresh blood ghost eagles. Chu Fengmian clearly saw these ferocious-looking blood ghost eagles. These fresh blood ghost eagles could be considered one of the most difficult demonic beasts to deal with in the world of blood. They were not inferior to the ancient serpent clan and were extremely dangerous. Fortunately, this clan was not too big. There were only a few thousand fresh blood ghost eagles, and their leader was an eagle king that was infinitely close to the quasi-emperor level. Even so, these martialists did not face any difficulties. Although these martialists' strength was in the emperor realm, they felt extremely powerless in the face of thousands of fresh blood ghost eagles. After all, even if it was easy for them to kill one fresh blood ghost eagle, it would not be troublesome if they attacked together. The fundamental reason why Chu Fengmian was so arrogant in battle was because of his divine pulse. With the divine pulse, Chu Fengmian could replenish his spiritual energy at any time and place. He did not have to worry about the consumption of spiritual energy at all. He could not do this with other martialists. Chu Fengmian observed that the 7 or 8 martialists had already stood together and formed a sword formation to deal with the fresh blood ghost eagles. Working together was the best way to reduce the consumption of spiritual energy. But now, they were surrounded by a group of bloody blood ghost eagles. Under such circumstances, it was almost impossible for them to escape. When their spiritual energy was exhausted, they would still be buried in the mouths of the fresh blood ghost eagles. These fresh blood ghost eagles have occupied this treasure land. It seems that this group of martialists was too confident to barge in. They did not expect to be trapped here. If I want to obtain the treasures of this treasure land, I have to get rid of this group of fresh blood ghost eagles. Although I don't know which force they belong to, there's no harm in helping them this time. Chu Fengmian's heart skipped a beat. His goal was this treasure land anyway. This desolate planet seemed to have been occupied by a flock of fresh blood ghostly falcons. Since Chu Fengmian was going to deal with the fresh blood ghostly falcons, saving these people wouldn't hurt. While Chu Fengmian was deep in thought, he also made his move in an instant. However, in order to hide his identity, Chu Fengmian dispersed all the sword intent on his body, leaving only the pure dragon might behind. He still looked like a demon immortal of the dragon race. The battle dragon bloodline in Chu Fengmian's body started to boil. His figure instantly changed in the sky and started to collide with each other. He then turned into a gigantic ancient battle dragon and roared towards the desolate planet. Big Brother Yin, what's wrong? I'm afraid that we won't be able to hold on for much longer. The 7 or 8 martialists had formed a sword array and were constantly killing the fresh blood, ghostly eagles that were flying towards them. There were simply too many of them. They were going all out, but they only managed to kill a few hundred of them. It was nothing compared to a clan of millions. The fresh blood, ghostly eagles were constantly bombarding their sword array. The faces of the martialists had already turned pale. They were already showing signs of running out of spiritual energy. Once the sword array is broken, we will definitely die. Big Brother Tian, what should we do? Another martialist asked. Their gazes were all fixed on an immortal realm young man. This man was the Big Brother Tian that they were talking about, and he was also the leader of this group. The news of us being trapped has already been sent out, but there hasn't been a response yet. As long as we wait for the experts of the clan to arrive, we will be able to escape. Let's hold on for now. Big Brother Tian observed for a while, and his face revealed some anxiety. Not good. The fresh blood ghostly Eagle King is about to make his move. While they were talking, the fresh blood ghostly Eagle King, who had always been in the sky, suddenly made his move. He attacked the sword array in an instant. Sword! The martialists gathered their spiritual energy and activated the sword array. However, when the sword slashed the fresh blood ghostly Eagle King's body, it was unexpectedly unable to move his body. The feathers of the fresh blood ghostly eagles were as hard as iron, let alone the ghostly Eagle King. The ghostly Eagle King laughed loudly and suddenly clawed at the sword array, directly tearing a hole in it. Not good. The faces of the martialists turned pale. They had already seen countless fresh blood ghostly eagles smiling at them ferociously, as if they were already a meal. Martialist demon gods could kill these fresh blood demonic beasts and use the bloodstones in their bodies to increase their strength. However, for these fresh blood demonic beasts, the blood essence of the martialist demon gods was also their source of strength. The more warriors they devoured, the stronger their strength would be. In the nick of time, a dragon roar suddenly echoed in the air. The fresh blood ghostly eagles were all intimidated by the dragon's roar. Dragon's roar? Where did the dragon's roar come from? Countless gazes looked around and saw a huge primordial war dragon suddenly charging in. This primordial war dragon was none other than Chu Fengmian. When the fresh blood ghostly eagles saw Chu Fengmian, they all pounced at him. However, their sharp claws could not even break through Chu Fengmian's scales. Spiritual energy erupted from the huge primordial war dragon's body. In an instant, the surrounding fresh blood ghostly eagles were all shattered and killed. In an instant, 2,000 to 3,000 fresh blood ghostly eagles died at Chu Fengmian's hands. Who exactly is it that came? With such means, could it be a quasi-emperor? However, this dragon's roar, could it be from the dragon race? However, the Divine Dragon Empire should be in a feudal state right now. Why would a dragon race suddenly appear? No matter what, we are finally saved. Someone has come to save us. These fresh blood, ghostly eagles were actually swept aside. What a strong force. When the martialists saw the primordial war dragon before them, they all started discussing. Their expressions gradually stabilized. At the very least, they were suddenly freed from a hopeless situation. Hiss! When the fresh blood, ghostly Eagle King saw the primordial war dragon crazily massacring his clansmen, he was furious. He roared and charged at Chu Fengyan. You still dare to attack me? Die. Chapter 1128. The fresh blood ghost Eagle King was killed just like that. How is this possible? Even a quasi-emperor might not be able to kill the fresh blood ghost Eagle King. How did this person do it? Too powerful. I've never heard of such a strong cultivator before. His true form, that dragon, is actually something I've never seen before. I can sense an extremely ancient aura from him. It's an ancient bloodline. The 7 or 8 martial practitioners were all dumbfounded when they saw Chu Fengyan easily kill the blood ghost Eagle King with their own eyes. Previously, the fresh blood ghost Eagle King did not even make a move. The flock of fresh blood ghost eagles alone had forced them into a desperate situation. However, Chu Fengyan had actually dealt with them so casually. The moment the fresh blood ghost Eagle King died, the remaining fresh blood ghost eagles scattered and fled in all directions. Trying to escape? 8 Tianlong notes. Every fresh blood ghost eagle was a piece of bloodstone. Naturally, Chu Fengyan would not let them off. Suddenly, a dragon roar resounded from Chu Fengyan's mouth. This dragon roar seemed ordinary, but when the fresh blood ghost eagles heard it, their bodies started to swell violently. Then they exploded with a bang. Aside from clouds of blood mist, there were only bloodstones in the air. Chu Fengyan picked them up from the air and pulled them into his palm. What is this technique? When they saw the remaining thousands of fresh blood ghost hawks being killed by a dragon roar, the faces of the cultivators were filled with shock. This scene was even more horrifying than when they saw Chu Fengyan kill the fresh blood ghost Eagle King. The fresh blood ghost Eagle King's death could be attributed to Chu Fengyan's strength. However, this dragon roar swept through everything. It was simply a shocking technique. 8 Tianlong notes. This is one of the dragon race's supreme secret techniques. It is said that the dragon race used to rule the world. A dragon roar can kill anyone who is slightly weaker. It is said that in the Divine Dragon Empire, only the Dragon God Emperor and the other Dragon Kings know this technique. Where did this person come from? How could he know such a secret technique of the dragon race? Brother Tian muttered to himself. Others might not know, but he knew that this was the Dragon Clan's secret technique, Tianlong's 8 notes. He had once seen a Dragon King use it. Just the aftermath alone was enough to almost kill him. However, that Dragon King was not as good as Chu Fengyan's. Although they were close to Chu Fengyan's 8 Tianlong notes, they weren't affected in the slightest. This was something that could only be achieved when one's control of spiritual energy had reached a certain level. Are you guys all right? After dealing with all the fresh blood ghost eagles, the primordial war dragon's body began to shrink and transform into Chu Fengyan's appearance. This was not surprising. Most Yao gods would transform into their human forms outside of battle. This way, they could conserve their spiritual energy. However, the 7 or 8 martial artists in front of them were all humans and not Yao gods in disguise. It seemed that they belonged to a force. The ancient monster continent revered Yao gods, but that didn't mean that there were no human martial artists. However, in the ancient Serpent Empire, the 8 great royal families were the most famous. However, there were also human forces like the Secret Assassin Association. The origins of this group of people were obviously extraordinary. Almost every one of them had a heaven-grade spiritual weapon. It was simply extravagant. If it weren't for these heaven-grade spiritual weapons, they would have been defeated long ago. We're fine. Hearing Chu Fengyan's words, the martial artists hurriedly responded. Thank you for saving us. They were a little stunned when they saw Chu Fengyan's realm. They originally thought that Chu Fengyan was not a quasi-emperor, but at least a supreme ancestor who was infinitely close to the quasi-emperor realm. They didn't expect him to only be in the heavenly fate realm. Compared to many of them, he was one level lower. That was why they hesitated for a moment and addressed him as Your Excellency. I just needed this treasure land to deal with a group of fresh blood ghost eagles. Saving you is just a matter of convenience. Chu Fengmian said casually. Chu Fengmian said casually. He didn't say to thank them. At the same time, he made it clear. Chu Fengmian wanted this treasure land. If there's nothing else, you can leave. Chu Fengmian glanced at the martial artists and said casually. Chu Fengmian could see that these people were hesitating. A treasure land could bring great wealth. Even though Chu Fengmian had saved them, they still had to consider it. Brother Tian, what should we do? The martial artists' eyes flickered. One of them asked Brother Tian, who was the leader. This person seems to be planning to fight for this treasure land. Fight for this treasure land? This treasure land belongs to the Sun family. No one can fight for it. I just received news that the experts of the family are coming. Let's delay this person first. Sun Yun's tone was cold. It seemed like he had already forgotten who saved them. Since he is from the dragon race, he probably secretly escaped from the divine dragon empire. He does not have any backing, yet he dares to be so arrogant in our ancient serpent empire. When the experts of the family arrive, Sun Yun secretly told the plan directly to the other few martial artists. The other martial artists all nodded their heads. Sun Yun then looked at Chu Fengmian. Your Excellency, this treasure land was discovered by our Sun family first. Therefore, it should belong to us. Of course, since Your Excellency saved us, our Sun family will definitely reward you generously. However, there is no need to mention this treasure land. Huh? Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed coldly at Sun Yun's words. If not for Chu Fengmian's help, they would have died in the stomachs of the fresh blood ghost eagles. Chu Fengmian dealt with all the fresh blood ghost eagles and even saved them. This treasure land should belong to Chu Fengmian. Unexpectedly, these people were actually ungrateful. Even at this time, they still wanted to fight with Chu Fengmian. It seemed that saving one's life was nothing before wealth. So, you all intend to be ungrateful? You can't say that. This treasure land originally belonged to my Sun family. Sir, you helped us. Although we are indebted to you, you can't force us to repay you. I'm sure you've heard of my Sun family. Do you plan on becoming enemies with my Sun family for a piece of treasure land? Why don't you form a good relationship with us? With Your Excellency's strength, work for our Sun family, and you will definitely benefit greatly. Chapter 1129. Is that so? So, the people of the Sun family are just a bunch of unscrupulous beasts? Chu Fengmian's face turned cold when he heard Sun Yun's words. It seemed like the Sun family really thought that Chu Fengmian was a pushover. Now, they were threatening him instead. Sir, please conduct yourself with dignity. I don't think you can handle the anger of the Sun family. A man from the Sun family snorted coldly when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Can't handle it? Shut up. All of a sudden, Chu Fengmian made a move and slapped the man with his palm. The other Sun family martial artists gathered their spiritual energy to block Chu Fengmian's attack, but they were all sent flying. What kind of trash are you? How dare you threaten me? Bang! With one palm strike, that person was sent flying. His face was swollen and all of his teeth were knocked out. He looked miserable. Seeing the man's miserable appearance, Sun Yun said coldly. Sun Yun's face turned cold, and he said angrily, Sir, what do you mean by this? Do you really think that the Sun family is easy to bully? You're just a bunch of ungrateful people. Since I saved you, I can also kill you. Killing intent surged out of Chu Fengmian's eyes. He had only saved the Sun family's people out of the goodness of his heart. Otherwise, Chu Fengmian would have just watched from the side, waiting for the fresh blood ghost eagles to kill them. Now, it seemed like the good guys didn't have good karma. Instead, they threatened Chu Fengmian. Even a clay figurine would get angry, let alone Chu Fengmian. Get out of here. If you don't get out of here, you'll all die. Chu Fengmian had no scruples. He unleashed all his spiritual energy, and a huge dragon's aura shrouded them. Who is it? How dare you speak arrogantly in front of the Sun family? Suddenly, An angry roar resounded in the distance. A ray of light flew over from the direction of the voice. It was an old man at the peak of the Neverwither realm. He was many times stronger than Sun Yun, who had just stepped into the Neverwither realm. Moreover, Chu Fengyan sensed that the old man seemed to have an extremely special spiritual artifact on him that had forcibly raised his cultivation to the Quasi-Emperor realm. Although someone who had just stepped into the Quasi-Emperor realm could easily defeat the old man, he was almost invincible in front of anyone who hadn't stepped into the Quasi-Emperor realm. Uncle Du, when they saw the old man arrive, Sun Yun and the other Sun family cultivators all spoke respectfully. Sun Yun, what's going on? Uncle Du glanced at Sun Yun and said, "Don't worry." Sun Yun recounted what had happened earlier in full detail. Then he stepped to the side. "Oh, how dare you dare to injure my Sun family?" Uncle Du nodded when he heard everything. He looked at Chu Fengyan and said coldly, "It's a good thing that you saved them, but you dare to injure my Sun family's people. According to the Sun family's rules, you've committed a capital offense. Since you still have some strength, I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and join the Sun family. Be a servant for 1,000 years, and I'll absolve you of your sins." "Sins? What do you mean? I've committed a sin after saving you all?" Chu Fengyan wanted to laugh out loud when he heard Uncle Du's words. This Uncle Du and this group of people from the Sun family were simply carved from the same mold. They were arrogant to the extreme. "That's right. Of course you've committed a sin. Injuring the Sun family's people is a capital offense. What else do you want to say?" Uncle Du looked at Chu Fengyan and said arrogantly, "We'll let you join the Sun family because you have some ancient bloodline and know a few secret techniques of the Dragon Clan. Otherwise, do you think you're qualified to be a servant of the Sun family? Let me tell you, if you join the Sun family, you'll have to contribute all your techniques and experiences. Only then will your sins be abated. If you hide anything, you'll be executed immediately." Sun Yun chimed in from the side. "So you've seen the secret techniques of the Dragon Clan?" Chu Fengyan's smile became brighter when he heard Sun Yun and Uncle Du's words. "Very well. So you're planning to submit to the Sun family? Now, quickly kneel down and open your heart so that we can place a restriction on your heart." Sun Yun looked at Chu Fengyan and said as if he was ordering him, "Kneel down now." "Kneel? I think you're the ones who should kneel." "No, kneeling would be too easy for you. A bunch of vile people who bite the hand that feeds them. Die." All of a sudden, Chu Fengyan let out a roar that was infused with the 8 voices of the heavenly dragon as it rumbled towards Sun Yun. "Not good, it's the 8 Tianlong notes," Sun Yun exclaimed when he saw Chu Fengyan make a move. "Don't be afraid. A Destiny Realm brat thinks he's so arrogant because he has some luck and some bloodline. See how he's been subdued. When the time comes, we'll strip him of his bloodline and obtain the secret techniques of the Dragon Clan." Uncle Du said disdainfully when he saw Chu Fengyan make a move. "Brat, it seems that you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You dare to go against our Sun family. Now, not only will you be a slave for 1,000 years, but you will also be a slave of our Sun family for the rest of your life. Only then will you be able to wash away your death sentence. The profound gate sealing technique. The profound gate of heaven and earth." All of a sudden, Uncle Du attacked with his palm. Spiritual power shot out into the air, transforming into an ancient portal. Looking at the portal left anyone who saw it gasping for breath. This ancient door was definitely an earth-shattering treasure. What Uncle Du had conjured was only an illusory figure, but it contained an indescribable amount of power. The profound gate of heaven and earth. Uncle Du's profound gate of heaven and earth is becoming more and more perfect. One of the Sun family's martial artists sighed. "Once the profound gate of heaven and earth appears, this brat will definitely die. Moreover, Uncle Du has the Sun family's ultimate treasure, the profound heaven ruler. It's enough to raise Uncle Du's cultivation to the level of a quasi-emperor. No matter how strong this brat is, he won't be a match for a quasi-emperor." Sun Yun, who was standing at the side, guffawed as he revealed a mocking expression. "Does this brat really think he's something? He's just an ant in front of the Sun family." I'll torture him properly after Uncle Do subdues him. Chapter 11:30. As soon as the black gate of heaven and earth appeared, the surrounding space immediately became tense. This move was Uncle Do's killing move. It was also one of their Sun family's secret techniques. Once this move was used, it was basically invincible. No one would be able to match it. In a battle of the same level, it was undefeatable. Moreover, Uncle Do's strength was even higher than Chu Fengmian's. As soon as the black gate of heaven and earth appeared, there was almost no suspense in this battle. Uncle Do used the black gate of heaven and earth as soon as he attacked. He did not intend to give Chu Fengmian any chance to retaliate. Previously, Sun Yun had secretly told Uncle Do about how Chu Fengmian defeated the fresh blood ghost eagle. Since Chu Fengmian also had many secret techniques of the dragon race hidden in his body, Uncle Do did not intend to give Chu Fengmian any chance to retaliate. He attacked to kill Chu Fengmian with a single strike. He would interrogate Chu Fengmian properly after capturing him. The black gate of heaven and earth appeared and suppressed Chu Fengmian in the air with irresistible force. Everything around Chu Fengmian, including the blood qi that floated in the air, was completely shattered in front of the black gate of heaven and earth. A terrifying pressure attacked Chu Fengmian. If it were any other martial artist, they would have been suppressed by the black gate of heaven and earth in an instant. However, Chu Fengmian's strength was clearly not that of an ordinary martial artist. His strength was already close to that of a quasi-emperor. Compared to Uncle Do in front of him, only he was strong, not weak. The moment the black gate of heaven and earth appeared, Chu Fengmian suddenly attacked. The bloodline of the war dragon condensed above Chu Fengmian's head and turned into a claw of the war dragon. It directly slammed toward the black gate of heaven and earth. Chu Fengmian also noticed that there was something wrong with Uncle Do's strength. Based on his true level, he should only be at the peak of the immortal realm. However, Chu Fengmian now vaguely felt that Uncle Do's strength should have reached the quasi-emperor level. However, his body did not contain the might of an emperor. Therefore, his strength had only reached the quasi-emperor level. This was extremely similar to the blood god of the Alliance of the Wasteland that Chu Fengmian had encountered previously. It seemed that Uncle Do was hiding some kind of spiritual weapon or even a heavenly object that could increase his strength. If Chu Fengmian obtained it, it would be enough to raise his cultivation level by 1 level. That would bring a qualitative change to Chu Fengmian. What Chu Fengmian lacked now was cultivation level. As long as he could raise his cultivation level by 1 level, Chu Fengmian would be able to stand on equal footing with this quasi-emperor. Although I don't know where the Sun family came from. Since you've provoked me today, then die. I've already provoked the 8 great royal families. Why would I be afraid of a mere Sun family? Killing intent surged in Chu Fengmian's eyes. Now, he naturally understood that the Sun family in front of him must have a great origin. However, Chu Fengmian didn't care anymore. As long as they provoked Chu Fengmian would kill them all. No matter how big the Sun family was, could they be bigger than the 8 royal families? What black gate of heaven and earth? Break! Chu Fengmian snorted coldly. His battle dragon claw erupted with unparalleled power and slammed towards the black gate of heaven and earth. The people of the Sun family could only see the black gate of heaven and earth slamming towards Chu Fengmian. Sun Yan's face was especially excited. He could already imagine the scene where Chu Fengmian would be suppressed by the black gate of heaven and earth. However, at the same time, a deafening dragon roar resounded. What followed was a series of rumbling sounds. Boom! The enormous battle dragon claw was formed in an instant and slammed towards the black gate of heaven and earth. The claw attack caused the black gate of heaven and earth to tremble. For a moment, even the space was trembling. It was chaotic. The black gate of heaven and earth could only be seen clearly as it was sent flying by the claw attack. What? Uncle Do's black gate of heaven and earth has been defeated? Sun Yun and the others' faces changed. The black gate of heaven and earth was considered Uncle Do's trump card. Now, it was defeated by Chu Fengmian. Could it be that Chu Fengmian had the strength to contend against a quasi-emperor? No, that was impossible. Quasi-emperors were sovereigns. Even if Uncle Du's strength was forcibly raised by using a secret treasure of the Sun family, it was still within the realm of a quasi-emperor. No matter how weak a quasi-emperor was, it was still a quasi-emperor. Like a weak true dragon, it could easily crush an ant to death. Moreover, Uncle Du had not unleashed his full strength yet. "Oh, you are strong enough to defeat the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth? This is unexpected. Little fellow, it seems that your bloodline is not noble. You are at least the son of a dragon king." Uncle Du looked at Chu Fengmian and suddenly said after seeing the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth being sent flying, "However, even if you're the son of a dragon king, you will definitely die for offending the Sun family today. Kneel down and submit now. This is your only choice. Otherwise what?" Before Uncle Du could finish, Chu Fengmian's disdainful laughter resounded through the world. "Sun family? Who do you think you are? You have offended me today. Sooner or later, I will flatten the Sun family. Today, I will kill all of you first. Then, your family will die together. At least you won't be lonely. Little fellow, are you courting death?" Uncle Du was furious when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. The Sun family was proud of the Sun family. Chu Fengmian's words were an insult to them. In an instant, the aura of the lone uncle's body rose rapidly. Previously, he had not unleashed his full power, but in an instant, the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth was filled with power again. Even the veins on its surface became much clearer. As the veins changed, the entire Black Gate of Heaven and Earth became more solid. It was close to the appearance of the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth. "Black Gate of Heaven and Earth, come under my control. Suppress." Uncle Du roared. The Black Gate of Heaven and Earth emitted a burst of golden light. It became extremely huge and pressed down on Chu Fengmian. This time, the power of Heaven and Earth was vaguely mobilized. The power of the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth was enough to mobilize the power of Heaven and Earth. The power of Heaven and Earth merged with the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth and pressed down on Chu Fengmian. This move was extremely shocking. It was the strongest move in the world. Only the Heaven and Earth contained the power of the Heaven and Earth. This time around, the power of this attack was 10 times stronger than before. Chapter 1131. The Power of Heaven and Earth. Even Heaven and Earth would be torn apart by me. It's just a mere Black Gate of Heaven and Earth. Sky-ripping claw. Tear it apart. Chu Fengmian's expression changed. His aura and battle intent surged. In front of Chu Fengmian, even if Heaven and Earth wanted to suppress him, Chu Fengmian would tear it apart. Rumble. The battle dragon claw above Chu Fengmian's head began to change. 9,999 formations began to condense on the battle dragon claw. An ancient dragon claw was summoned. This dragon claw was able to find the origin of all secret techniques of the dragon clan. It seemed to contain the purest power of the dragon clan. This was the secret technique of the ancestor of all dragons, Tianlong, the sky-ripping claw. Compared to the sky-ripping claw formed with 300 formations, the one before Chu Fengmian was even more terrifying. It was even closer to the level of Tianlong. The might of the claw attack was no different from that of the real ancestor Heavenly Dragon. Legend had it that Tianlong's sky-ripping claw could tear apart heaven and earth. Chu Fengmian was using it to tear apart the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth. However, this was also Chu Fengmian deliberately used it to familiarize himself with the power he had just gained control of. Kacha! With a crisp sound, cracks suddenly appeared on the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth. Under the bombardment of the sky-ripping claw, the Black Gate of Heaven and Earth was instantly covered in cracks. Then, in the next moment, it shattered and turned into countless pieces of debris before disappearing. When Uncle Du saw this, his face turned extremely pale. He hurriedly gathered his spiritual energy in an attempt to block the attack. However, just the aftershock alone was enough to seriously injure Uncle Du, causing him to spit out mouthfuls of blood. How can this be? How can your power reach such a level? Uncle Du looked at Chu Fengyan and shouted in disbelief. The power of the sky-ripping claw was comparable to that of a quasi-emperor. No, even a quasi-emperor might not be able to reach such a terrifying level of power. It was a power that was neither ancient nor noble. It was a power that only the noblest of bloodlines could possess. Can't you see that I'm just playing with you? Chu Fengyan looked at Uncle Du with a disdainful smile. This Uncle Du was not even a quasi-emperor. At the very most, he was on equal footing with the blood god of the Desolate Domain Alliance. Originally, Chu Fengyan did not care about him at all. Chu Fengyan did not kill Uncle Du because he wanted to observe what it was that allowed Uncle Du's realm to rise from the peak of the immortal realm to the level of quasi-emperor. Now that Chu Fengyan had achieved his goal, he noticed that there seemed to be a ruler in Uncle Du's body. It was the power of this ruler that had forcibly raised Uncle Du's realm from the pinnacle of the immortal realm to the quasi-emperor realm. A treasure that could do this was not common. If it was at the level of the life and death steps, it would be easier, but when it came to the emperor realm, it was on a completely different level. For example, Chu Fengyan's current Heaven's Mandate realm could be raised to the Heaven realm by using the power of the gigantic sword ray. But if Chu Fengyan's realm reached the pinnacle of the immortal realm, even if he used the power of the gigantic sword ray, his realm would still be at the pinnacle of the immortal realm and could not be raised. After all, the immortal realm and the quasi-emperor realm were two completely different realms. It cannot be crossed even by using secret techniques. However, this ruler in front of him could actually cross the gap between the emperor realm and the emperor realm. Chu Fengyan was puzzled. What exactly was this thing? Give it to me. Chu Fengyan suddenly reached out and grabbed Uncle Du in an instant. A crack suddenly appeared on his chest, and a glazed ruler flew out from the crack. The glazed ruler seemed to have a mind of its own. After it left Uncle Du's body, it suddenly gathered its power, intending to flee into the distance. You still want to resist? When Chu Fengyan saw this glazed ruler, he actually wanted to escape. Of course, Chu Fengyan would not let him go. Chu Fengyan also wanted to know the origin of this glazed ruler and how it could break the barrier of the Emperor realm. It's just a spirit artifact. Suppress it. As he attacked, he had already suppressed it with his terrifying dragon pressure. Boom, 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 boom. Under the suppression of Chu Fengyan again and again, the glazed ruler was still resisting and resisting Chu Fengyan's suppression. This dragon pressure turned out to be this glazed ruler. It was not very useful and was far from being able to suppress all of his power. This made Chu Fengyan's eyes flicker. One had to know that with Chu Fengyan's dragon pressure, even a heaven-grade spirit artifact would be suppressed. This glazed ruler was the first one that could resist Chu Fengyan's dragon pressure. However, the more the glazed ruler resisted, the more excited Chu Fengyan became. This also meant that this glazed ruler was very powerful. It might even be the most perfect heaven-grade spirit artifact. Of course, Chu Fengyan did not doubt that it was an extreme-grade celestial artifact that could do all this. However, if it was an extreme-grade celestial artifact, the power it contained was enough to tear Chu Fengyan into pieces. You want to resist? Let's see how long you can resist. Chu Fengyan urged his spiritual energy to suppress the glazed ruler. Anyway, Chu Fengyan's spiritual energy was unlimited, but this glazed ruler was just a spirit artifact. How long could a spirit artifact that had no owner resist? Soon, the resistance of the glass-colored ruler weakened. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Chu Fengyan suddenly grabbed it. The glass-colored ruler was directly grabbed by Chu Fengyan. It was unable to resist anymore and directly submitted to Chu Fengyan. Boy, this dark heaven ruler is the treasure of our Sun family. How dare you snatch it? Uncle Du roared angrily when he saw Chu Fengyan holding the dark heaven ruler in his hand. You're finished. From now on, you'll be hunted down endlessly by the Sun family. Even if you escape to the ends of the earth, only death awaits you. No one can save you. Even if you're the son of the Dragon King, you'll definitely die. Sun family? Who do you think you are? How dare you provoke me? You'll be destroyed by me sooner or later. You want revenge? Then come. I'll kill every single one of you who comes. Chu Fengmian's cold words scared the Sun family warriors, causing them to tremble. As long as the Sun family's name was mentioned, no one in the ancient Fey continent had ever dared to make things difficult for them. It was the same even for quasi-emperors. However, Chu Fengmian dared to say such words today. Chapter 1132. You talk too much. Chu Fengmian looked at the roaring Sun Yun and pointed his finger at him. A crack appeared on Sun Yun's chest and tore his body apart. Sun Yun, who was arrogant just a moment ago, was easily killed by Chu Fengmian. And the rest of you, go to hell. The remaining cultivators of the Sun family wanted to escape, but as Chu Fengmian pointed his finger, their chests were torn apart just like Sun Yun's. Then they all exploded and died. Even Uncle Du was killed by Chu Fengmian with a light point. After doing all this, Chu Fengmian's figure quietly moved and stepped into the desolate planet. Originally, Chu Fengmian didn't have the intention to kill anyone. He saved these people from the Sun family because he had good intentions. However, these people of the Sun family were not only ungrateful, but also wanted to kill Chu Fengmian. They deserved to die. Chu Fengmian was never a kind person. On the contrary, Chu Fengmian was ruthless to his enemies. However, this time, Chu Fengmian had caused a lot of trouble. The Sun family, a family of human cultivators. I didn't expect there to be a place for humans in the ancient monster continent. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself while reading Sun Yun's memory. From Sun Yun's memory, Chu Fengmian figured out what kind of existence the Sun family was. It was a well-known fact that the monster race reigned supreme in the ancient monster continent. However, other than the monster race, there were many humans in the ancient monster continent. However, Chu Fengmian had never heard of the human forces. Chu Fengmian only met the people of the Secret Killer Society when he came to the Blood World. Now, the Sun family was also one of the human forces. The three great forces of the human race were the Secret Killer Society, the martial god Sun family, and the Five Mountain Sword sect. These three great forces were hidden in the three great empires. However, they were on an equal footing with the three great empires. However, they did not have invincible masters like ancient Snake Wang and the Dragon God Emperor, so they could only retreat behind the scenes. In these three great forces, there were also true Emperor Realm masters. They were not quasi-emperors, but masters who had truly stepped into the Emperor Realm. However, Chu Fengmian never regretted it. He had already killed them. The people of the Sun family were arrogant. They deserved to die in Chu Fengmian's hands. Those who dared to retaliate against Chu Fengmian would make them pay. Let's see what kind of spiritual artifact this Dark Heaven Ruler is. In Sun Yun's memories, he only knew that the Dark Heaven Ruler was an extremely important treasure of the Sun family. Following a thought from Chu Fengmian, the glass ruler once again landed in Chu Fengmian's palm. Rather than calling the Dark Heaven Ruler a spiritual weapon, it would be more accurate to call it a heavenly object. This was because Chu Fengmian couldn't sense any traces of refinement on it. It seemed to be born innately, and it was like this nearby. Chu Fengmian observed it carefully for a long time, but he still couldn't figure out what the Dark Heaven Ruler was. Forget it. Let's try it out first. Chu Fengmian pinched the Dark Heaven Ruler and infused it with spiritual energy. A special spiritual energy seemed to be activated from the Dark Heaven Ruler and integrated into Chu Fengmian's body. However, that was all. After the spiritual energy fused with Chu Fengmian's body, it disappeared. At the same time, there was no change in Chu Fengmian's strength and realm. No effect. Chu Fengmian frowned. He figured out how to use the Dark Heaven Ruler from Uncle Du's memories. He just had to infuse spiritual energy and wait for the Dark Heaven Ruler to respond with spiritual energy. That would be enough to increase his strength. However, it didn't have any effect on Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian tried several times, but the result was the same. The spiritual energy emitted from the Dark Heaven Ruler completely disappeared after it integrated into Chu Fengmian's body. Could it be that my strength has reached the limit of the Dark Heaven Ruler? Chu Fengmian pondered. Suddenly, with a thought, another Chu Fengmian was condensed in front of Chu Fengmian. A clone. Warriors at Chu Fengmian's level could use spiritual energy to create clones. However, The energy used to create clones would consume the body's energy. For Chu Fengmian, it was too late for him to accumulate energy. How could he possibly create clones? That was why he didn't do it. However, it didn't take much effort for Chu Fengmian to create a weak clone. Soon, the clone was formed. This clone looked exactly like Chu Fengmian. However, he controlled his strength to the peak of the immortal realm. Then, Chu Fengmian ordered the clone to take away the Dark Heaven ruler and infuse it with spiritual energy. Soon, the clone's strength began to rise steadily. It had already broken through the boundary of the quasi-emperor realm. Only then did the increase in strength stop. The strength of Chu Fengmian's clone was exactly the same as that of Uncle Du. There was no difference at all. Sure enough, the Dark Heaven ruler can only increase the strength of a quasi-emperor. It's meaningless beyond that. Seeing this scene, Chu Fengmian couldn't help but shake his head. There was some disappointment in his eyes. He originally thought that he could use the Dark Heaven ruler to increase Chu Fengmian's cultivation level. However, the ruler could only increase the strength of a quasi-emperor at most. Although Chu Fengmian was only at the heavenly fate realm, he was stronger than a quasi-emperor in terms of strength. The Dark Heaven ruler was meaningless to Chu Fengmian. It was like a chicken rib. Although it was divine, it wasn't very useful. Forget it. I'll give it to someone else when I have the time. It's useful to be able to increase the strength of a quasi-emperor. Chu Fengmian studied it for a while, and then threw the Dark Heaven ruler into the empty ring. Let's take a look at this treasure land first. Chu Fengmian's figure flickered and stepped into the desolate planet. At a glance, this desolate planet was devoid of any life. However, it wasn't surprising. Previously, there was a large group of fresh blood ghost eagles entrenched here. The other fresh blood ghost beasts wouldn't dare to set foot here. Previously, Chu Fengmian killed all of the fresh blood ghost eagles to avoid trouble. Chu Fengmian saw countless bloodstones on this desolate planet. Collect. Chapter 1133. 45,000. In less than an hour, Chu Fengmian had swept through the entire desolate planet. Chu Fengmian had collected all the bloodstones in the entire treasure land. 45,000 was more than what Chu Fengmian had estimated. Now, in addition to the bloodstones from the Bloody Ghost Eagle and the ones from the Sun family, there were a total of 70,000 bloodstones in Chu Fengmian's empty ring. It seems that it's better to come across a treasure land. However, I don't know how many more treasure lands I need to collect to accumulate more bloodstones. Not enough. Chu Fengmian shook his head. Although the number of bloodstones was astonishing, it was far from enough for Chu Fengmian. If he wanted to upgrade his bloodline again, he would need at least 200,000 bloodstones. 70,000 bloodstones was only 1/3 of the total. Do I have to give up on upgrading my bloodline? Thinking of this, Chu Fengmian shook his head again. Chu Fengmian had already experienced the benefits of upgrading his bloodline. This kind of divine power was many times more mysterious than simply upgrading one's realm. Now that Chu Fengmian's bloodline still had the possibility of upgrading, Chu Fengmian would never choose to give up. Moreover, once he left the bloody world, he would not be able to find a large number of bloodstones. Let's look for more treasure lands. Chu Fengmian's figure moved and directly left the desolate planet. He hid his figure and aura to avoid any trouble. The monster races in the bloody world like to search for the aura of martial artists and monster immortals. Chu Fengmian did not want to provoke so many monster races. Chu Fengmian's figure flew all the way, searching for treasure lands in the bloody world. After 3 full days, Chu Fengmian had encountered at least 1,000 martial artists and monster immortals. However, there was still no clue about this treasure land. The treasure lands in the bloody world were originally very rare. Chu Fengmian had only found it because he received news from the ancient snake chamber of commerce. That desolate planet could be said to be Chu Fengmian's good luck, but this time he was not so lucky. Do I really have to leave like this? Chu Fengmian did not want to waste too much time in the bloody world. Moreover, finding treasure lands depended on luck. Even if Chu Fengmian spent a long time here, he might not necessarily find anything. Moreover, Chu Fengmian did not have that much time. Whoosh! While Chu Fengmian was pondering, 2 streaks of escape light suddenly flashed by not far from him. The speed of these two escape lights was extremely fast. They were definitely escape lights of the quasi-emperor level. Chu Fumian took a closer look and realized that the two conveyance lights were actually the two kings of assassins from the secret assassin society that he had encountered before, Wang Sha and Ho Sha. Chu Fumian had completely concealed his aura and figure. Therefore, when the two of them passed by, they did not discover any trace of Chu Fumian. I didn't expect to meet those two again. Killing intent flashed in Chu Fumian's eyes. This murderous demon and murderous demon had taken advantage of the situation to ambush Chu Fumian. Chu Fumian would kill the two of them sooner or later, but now was not the time to do so. If they were alone, Chu Fumian could use the power of the soaring serpent transformation to catch them off guard and kill them. But if the two of them worked together, Chu Fumian was not confident. Only if Chu Fumian truly stepped into the paramount realm would he have the confidence to kill these two kings of assassins. These two guys are in a hurry. I don't know where they're going. Chu Fumian's eyes flickered. After pondering for a moment, his figure suddenly chased after murderous demon and murderous demon. These two kings of assassins seemed to be in a hurry. Since Chu Fumian did not have a target, he might as well follow them and have a look. Perhaps he could find a treasure ground, or even take advantage of the situation. Murderous demon and murderous demon had taken advantage of Chu Fumian's misfortune. Chu Fumian could also give them a taste of their own medicine. Chu Fumian's figure flashed again and again. Soon he caught up with them. His spiritual consciousness quietly approached them. The two kings of assassins were talking. What surprised Chu Fumian was that the content of their conversation was Chu Fumian. Murderous demon, what do you think that kid ran to? We've been searching for him for so long, but we still haven't found him. Murderous demon's eyes flashed with a trace of annoyance as he rushed. I didn't expect that you couldn't even deal with a kid. You even wasted so much of our time. The information was wrong. This kid has the strength to fight against a quasi-emperor. Damn the Lei and her families. How could they not tell us this information? Murderous demon's eyes flashed with a trace of greed. However, this also means that this kid has some kind of unique secret technique. Moreover, he has the bloodline of the soaring serpent. His secret technique is able to activate the power of the soaring serpent bloodline for his own use. If we get our hands on it, our strength will reach an unimaginable level. That's right. The bloody world is so big, that kid can't have run far. Before that, let's go to that place to take a look. It's said that the treasure ground is about to open. Murderous demon's eyes flashed with a trace of greed. We have to thank that blood serpent. I didn't expect him to know about such a huge treasure ground. Let's take all the bloodstones in the treasure ground first. Then we'll go after Chu Fumian. The two of them talked for a while and made a decision. They sped up and flew away. And all of this was clearly heard by Chu Fumian, who was behind them. Sure enough, a treasure ground has appeared. Moreover, it can't be small if it can make two quasi-emperors so agitated. After hearing all this, Chu Fumian's lips curled into a smile. He was planning to look for the treasure ground when these two came knocking on his door. Let's go. Chu Fumian's figure quietly followed behind Murderous Demon and Murderous Demon for 6 hours. Chu Fumian felt that he had arrived at the heart of the bloody world. The blood chi here had reached an unimaginable level. It was as if bloodstones could be born at any time and place. The blood demonic beasts entrenched here were also very powerful. They were all at the celestial realm, or even the immortal realm demonic beasts. However, these demonic beasts were all taken care of by the two kings of assassins in front. Chu Fumian followed them all the way and had no intention of attacking. Finally, the two king of assassins stopped after flying for a while. A huge continent appeared in front of them. Bloody continent? This is the true heart of the bloody world. The bloody continent? Chapter 1134. What entered Chu Fumian's eyes was the incomparably huge continent in front of him. As far as the eye could see, there were countless bloodstones densely scattered all over the continent. At the same time, there were countless blood demonic beasts living there. Countless battles would break out at any time. The powerful blood demonic beasts would directly devour the weak blood demonic beasts and turn them into their own power. Legend has it that the blood continent is the center of the blood world. However, it has always been incomparably mysterious in the blood world. It often doesn't appear for decades. I didn't expect it to appear now. There had always been a rumor in the blood world that there was a continent called the blood continent. In the blood world, it was the center of the blood world. At the same time, it was also the largest treasure land in the blood world. Where did the two kings of assassins get the news about the blood continent? Regardless, this is a good opportunity. Every time the blood continent appears, it contains at least hundreds of thousands of bloodstones. There may even be blood crystals among them. The corners of Chu Fengmian's mouth curled into a smile. If he could obtain most of the bloodstones on the blood continent, it would be easy for him to upgrade his bloodline again. However, it wouldn't be easy to obtain those bloodstones. Because on the blood continent, Chu Fengmian activated his spiritual consciousness and was able to sense several terrifying auras. These auras were extremely threatening, even to Chu Fengmian. They were all at the level of quasi-emperors. Quasi-emperors. On the blood continent, there were a total of 4 quasi-emperors, not including Wang Sha and Ho Sha. If the 2 of them were included, there would be a total of 6 quasi-emperors on the blood continent. Even in the imperial capital, it would be difficult to find so many quasi-emperors. These people are the quasi-emperors of the 8 great imperial families. Chu Fengmian observed. Among them, 3 quasi-emperors had a similar aura. It was the power of the ancient serpent clan. The 8 great imperial families were all from the serpent clan. These 3 quasi-emperors should be experts from the 8 great imperial families. However, he didn't know which clan they belonged to. The other 3 quasi-emperors were humans. 2 of them were the 2 kings of assassins of the Hidden Death Society, Wang Sha and Ho Sha. As for the other human warrior, Chu Fengmian felt a little familiar. His aura was very similar to the warrior from the Sun family that Chu Fengmian had killed before. People from the Sun family? Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness when he saw that martial artist. He and the Sun family had completely fallen out. Now, he actually encountered a quasi-emperor from the Sun clan. If there was a chance, Chu Fengmian would kill this person after killing Wang Sha and Sha. Otherwise, if he discovered Chu Fengmian's identity, he would definitely come after Chu Fengmian. The 6 quasi-emperors were currently gathered at the Bloody Continent. However, none of them dared to make the first move. This was because there was a bottomless cave in the center of the Bloody Continent. A terrifying aura swept across the entire Bloody Continent from within the cave. This aura was much stronger than the 6 boundary emperors. In fact, it was even stronger than Ouyang Li's aura. Chu Fengmian could sense that the owner of this aura wasn't a true sovereign. It was still a quasi-emperor. However, this was the strongest quasi-emperor that Chu Fengmian had ever seen. A peak quasi-emperor, Wang Sha and the others were only at the level of a minor perfection quasi-emperor. Although they were all quasi-emperors, there was still a difference of 2 realms. Therefore, although the 6 quasi-emperors looked at the Bloody Continent full of treasures with greedy eyes, none of them dared to make a move. The 6 quasi-emperors also discovered the presence of others. However, they didn't make a move and seemed to be discussing something. In the end, they seemed to have come to a decision. All of a sudden, they headed to the center of the Bloody Continent and started to use their methods to plunder the bloodstones. In an instant, tens of thousands of bloodstones were plundered by the 6 quasi-emperors. A bunch of ants. How dare you enter my territory? How audacious. I'm going to eat all of you. Suddenly, a huge monster appeared in the cave. This huge monster looked like a dragon. However, there were countless traces of ancient mutated beasts on its body. It was simply a monster. It seemed to be the combination of countless ancient mutated beasts and divine beasts. What exactly is this thing? Chu Fengmian was startled when he saw this monster. The appearance of this monster was simply beyond his imagination. It was completely different from any other demonic beast in the world. Chu Fengmian could even feel the power of an ancient battle dragon from it. 10,000 beast. This is a 10,000 beast. Why would this thing suddenly appear here? Xingxian suddenly exclaimed when he saw this monster. 10,000 beast? was a 10,000 beast? Chu Fumian asked anxiously. A 10,000 beast isn't an innate divine beast. It's also not the demonic beasts of today. It's a unique existence created by supreme power. In the ancient era, it was once invincible. It was an existence that could compete with countless demonic beasts. Xing Xian seemed to recall an ancient memory and explained aloud. Created demonic beasts? Is this really possible with human strength? Chu Fumian said in disbelief after hearing Xing Xian's words. Most of the demonic beasts in the world were inherited from the bloodline of the innate divine beast. It could be said that the 12 innate divine beasts of the world were the ancestors of all demonic beasts. As for creating a clan of demonic beasts, was it really possible with human strength? Humph. Who said it's possible with human strength? It's impossible. However, this 10,000 beast clan was created by an innate divine beast, the heaven-devouring beast. Xing Xian said after hearing Chu Fumian's words. The power of an innate divine beast is beyond your imagination. This heaven-devouring beast had once devoured all the demonic beasts in the world. This 10,000 beast clan was created by the heaven-devouring beast using all the demonic beasts that it had devoured. It's an incomparably terrifying demonic beast. However, in the ancient era, following the fall of the heaven-devouring beast, the 10,000 beast clan was also exterminated. After all, the heaven-devouring beast was the enemy of countless demonic beasts. The 10,000 beast clan was also massacred. How could a true 10,000 beasts still be alive? Xing Xian's voice seemed to be somewhat puzzled. As for Chu Fumian, he suddenly had a guess after hearing Xing Xian's words. Chapter 1135. Since the Thousand Beast clan was created by the heaven-devouring beast, then the Blood Snake Emperor, who knew the heaven-devouring secret technique, must have something to do with the heaven-devouring beast. Could this world of blood have been created by the heaven-devouring beast? The existence of the world of blood had exceeded Chu Fumian's expectations. The world of blood contained the flesh and blood of almost every kind of demonic beast in the world. The flesh and blood gathered together and eventually turned into bloodstones. The bloodline of any demonic beast could be found in the Bloodstone land. Therefore, devouring bloodstones could help demonic beasts evolve their bloodline. Originally, Chu Fumian had some doubts as to what kind of expert could have created this world of blood. He did not know who had captured demonic beasts to create this world of blood. Now it seemed that the world of blood was most likely created by the heaven-devouring beast. The world of blood was also created by the heaven-devouring beast. Later on, when the heaven-devouring beast fell, the world of blood remained and came to the ancient monster continent. If this world of blood was really created by the heaven-devouring beast, then it's a great opportunity. Chu Fumian was very excited. The things left behind by an innate divine beast were definitely the most valuable treasures. For example, Chu Fumian had only obtained a strand of the Tang serpent bloodline. His tongue serpent transformation was already so powerful. If he could obtain the complete tongue serpent bloodline, then he could easily sweep across the 9 regions and the ancient monster continent. In front of an innate divine beast, sovereigns were ants. Little Nine, for example, had the power to kill a quasi-emperor when it was just born. If it was not for Little Nine's help, Chu Fumian would not have been able to kill the heavenly demon master. Chu Fumian was eager to obtain the treasures left behind by an innate divine beast. However, even if they knew that the world of fresh blood was a huge treasure, no one would be able to take it away. Even if it belonged to a sovereign, it was nothing compared to this world of blood. Chu Fumian, with your strength, you can't take this world of blood, even if you are 100 or 1,000 times stronger. Only an innate divine beast can take the power of a world. Xing Xian knew what Chu Fumian was thinking and said. You can collect a lot of bloodstones now. Although the bloodstones can improve your bloodline endlessly, your bloodline is far from reaching its limit. That's right. The most important thing right now is to collect the bloodstones. This world of fresh blood is right here. It won't be too late to come back when I'm strong enough to collect them. Chu Fumian nodded and collected his thoughts. If he wanted to take the world of blood now, It would be like an ant trying to overturn the sky. Even if Chu Fengyan knew, he didn't have the power to do so. Chu Fengyan looked over again. On the bloody continent, the 6 quasi-emperors had already started a fierce battle with the beasts. The strength of the beasts was the amalgamation of countless demonic beasts. The secret techniques of the dragon race and the snake race were constantly bombarding the beasts. Chu Fengyan felt that even if the 6 quasi-emperors joined forces, they might not be a match for the beasts. What a terrifying existence. This Wan Shou is the one who is truly invincible among those of the same level. Facing him is like facing countless demonic beasts. I really don't know why the heaven-devouring beast created such a terrifying creature. Chu Fengyan looked at the battle between the beasts and sighed in amazement. He never thought that there would be such an existence in the world. The strength of the beast was originally inferior to the 6 quasi-emperors. Even if the 6 quasi-emperors joined forces, they were still at a disadvantage and were beaten back countless times by the beasts. During the battle, Chu Fengyan's eyes suddenly lit up. The beasts seemed to be guarding something. Chu Fengyan observed that every time the beasts gained the upper hand, as long as the 6 quasi-emperors left the boundary of the bloody continent, the beasts would no longer pursue them. It never pursued them, as if it didn't intend to leave the bloody continent. This also meant that there was something on the bloody continent that it needed to protect. As for this thing, it was most likely to be in the cave where the 10,000 beasts resided. The thing that the beasts are guarding is most likely a treasure left behind by the heaven-devouring beast. I can take the opportunity to collect it. Now that the 6 quasi-emperors are fighting against the beasts, it's my best chance. Wanting to snatch the treasure from the beasts was definitely an act of suicide. But now that the 6 quasi-emperors were fighting against the beasts, it was the best opportunity for Chu Fengyan. Especially now, Chu Fengyan had concealed his aura. Neither the beasts nor the 6 quasi-emperors were aware of Chu Fengyan's existence. It was the best opportunity for Chu Fengyan to suddenly strike. Risking my life is precious. Let's go all out. Chu Fengyan immediately made up his mind. His figure moved and quietly flew towards the bloody continent. The battle between the 6 quasi-emperors and the beasts had reached a white-hot stage. The beast's anger was also aroused. He repeatedly beat back the 6 quasi-emperors, but the 6 quasi-emperors didn't tire of it and kept plundering. The 6 quasi-emperors would plunder at least tens of thousands of bloodstones each time. Tens of thousands of bloodstones was a huge fortune even for the quasi-emperors. Of course, they wouldn't let it go. They had already plundered nearly half of the bloodstones on the bloody continent. However, Chu Fengyan wasn't in a hurry now. The treasure that the beasts were guarding was the most important thing to him. Roar! You ants, all of you must die. Heaven devouring all things. Heaven devouring. The beasts suddenly roared. He suddenly opened his mouth, and a huge vortex condensed in his mouth. Heaven-devouring secret technique. The beasts also knew the heaven-devouring secret technique. Moreover, this heaven-devouring secret technique was many times stronger than the blood serpent emperors. Retreat. The 6 quasi-emperors sensed danger the moment they encountered the heaven-devouring secret technique. They quickly retreated, but the beasts didn't intend to let them go. Again and again, the 6 quasi-emperors were pulled back, making it impossible for them to escape. Great! The beasts are finally going all out. This is a heaven-sent opportunity. It's really a heaven-sent opportunity. My chance has come. Chu Fengyan was overjoyed when he saw this scene. Chapter 1136. Chu Fengyan stood aside, waiting for an opportunity when Wan Shou attacked with all his might. Although Wan Shou's power was terrifying, Chu Fengyan felt that he was still holding back. If Chu Fengyan suddenly attacked, he would probably be killed by Wan Shou's palm. A peak quasi-emperor was far from what Chu Fengyan could contend with. Now that Wan Shou was enraged and used all his strength, the 6 quasi-emperors must also fight with all their might. This was the best opportunity for Chu Fengyan. The treasure guarded by Wan Shou was something Chu Fengyan must obtain. His success or failure would depend on this one move. His figure flashed repeatedly, and his escape light was extremely fast. The power of the gigantic sword ray and the soaring serpent transformation were all condensed and erupted, allowing Chu Fengmian to push his escape light to the extreme. In an instant, he rushed over. Roar! Damned ant! How dare you provoke the wrath of Wan Shou? Wan Shou's wrath will burn everything. Wan Shou suddenly roared. He also sensed Chu Fengmian's action and roared crazily. However, his current strength was all used to contend with the 6 quasi-emperors, and he had no spare energy to deal with them. Chu Fengmian could only roar crazily. The 6 quasi-emperors also sensed Chu Fengmian's existence at the same time, and their eyes revealed a hint of surprise. But soon, their surprise turned into anger. Chu Fengmian was taking advantage of the fact that they were fighting Wan Shou to reap the benefits and obtain the real treasure. I'll deal with him. You guys delay Wan Shou, Su Sha suddenly said. The others also nodded and made a decision. Su Sha's figure suddenly broke away and chased after Chu Fengmian on the bloody continent. Su Sha no longer concealed any of his strength at this time. His figure suddenly changed and directly turned into a blade, slashing at Chu Fengmian. This blade was Su Sha. Using his body as a blade, he was extremely fast and directly slashed at Chu Fengmian. He was not only stopping Chu Fengmian, but also wanted to kill Chu Fengmian and not give him any chance. Last time, Chu Fengmian had escaped from his hands. This time, it was his chance to wipe away his shame. A heaven's mandate, Ant was able to escape from the hands of a quasi-emperor. This was definitely the greatest shame of his life. Fatal strike. The blade was extremely fast. In an instant, it had arrived in front of Chu Fengmian. Courting death, Chu Fengmian could clearly sense the blade. He turned around and saw Tian Sha. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Last time, it was this attack that almost forced Chu Fengmian into a hopeless situation. In the end, Chu Fengmian found an opening, allowing him to escape with his life. Chu Fengmian hated Hou Sha to the bone. He had followed Hou Sha here in order to kill the 2 kings of assassins and take revenge. Now that he saw Ming Sha chasing after him, Chu Fengmian's killing intent soared. This time, Chu Fengmian was not the same Chu Fengmian who had used up all his trump cards. The power of the soaring serpent transformation was far from sufficient. After the bloodline upgrade, Chu Fengmian's current strength had far surpassed what it had been before. However, dealing with Ming Sha was still a priority. Now, the most important thing for Chu Fengmian was to obtain the treasure in the cave of the Myriad Beast Cave. The Myriad Beasts were still glaring furiously at Chu Fengmian. If it weren't for the 5 quasi-emperors who had been delaying him, he would have rushed over and killed Chu Fengmian. Even if the 5 quasi-emperors joined forces, they might not be able to delay the furious Myriad Beasts for too long. Before that, obtaining the treasure was the most important thing for Chu Fengmian. Sky-tearing claw. Chu Fengmian's figure did not stop. The battle dragon claw condensed above his head, and 9,999 array formations erupted at the same time. An ancient and majestic aura immediately filled Chu Fengmian's body. With a thought from Chu Fengmian, the sky-tearing claw collided with the blade that Ming Sha had transformed into. When the 2 forces collided, the sky-tearing claw shattered the blade, and a figure hurriedly flew out from the blade. It was Ming Sha. The blade that he had transformed into had been shattered by the sky-tearing claw, and he had reverted to his original appearance. What's going on? This kind of power. How can you be so powerful? Ming Sha's face was full of astonishment. He had originally regarded Chu Fengmian as an ant. An ant with many tricks up his sleeve should not be able to contend with a true quasi-emperor like him, no matter how great his luck was. However, this collision of power had given him an unimaginable scene. This power had simply surpassed his own. A heavenly mandate martialist being able to use tricks to escape from a quasi-emperor was already considered a shocking feat now. Chu Fengmian's power was enough to contend with a quasi-emperor or even surpass a quasi-emperor. This was simply unimaginable even in his wildest dreams. However, after the sky-tearing claw, Chu Fengmian did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he continued to fly toward the cave dwelling. Chu Fengmian had only been stalling for time with the sky-tearing claw. Even though he now had a chance to kill Ming Sha, it would still waste a lot of time. Chu Fengmian did not intend to waste so much time with Ming Sha. After delaying Ming Sha, Chu Fengmian's figure flickered repeatedly and directly entered the cave dwelling of the Thousand Beasts. This cave was so vast that it was like a bottomless abyss in the Blood Continent. It could accommodate the massive bodies of the Thousand Beasts, so this cave was definitely not small. Chu Fengmian's figure directly entered the cave. As soon as he entered, he was greeted with a dense blood qi. This blood qi was many times denser than outside. It was as if the blood qi of the entire Blood Continent had drifted out from this cave dwelling. Sure enough, there's another mystery in this cave. Chu Fengmian was extremely excited. When Chu Fengmian barged into the cave, the surrounding blood qi seemed to have sensed his presence and started to condense continuously. Blood snakes, fresh blood eagles, blood lions, and so on condensed into demonic beasts that filled the sky. Chapter 1137. In the blink of an eye, the blood qi condensed into dozens of demonic beasts. They sensed Chu Fengmian's aura and pounced on him. For the demonic beasts, the flesh and blood of living creatures were the best nourishment. They pounced on Chu Fengmian, wanting to devour him alive. Sword out, Chu Fengmian's figure didn't stop at all. A dazzling light condensed in his palm. The ancestral dragon supreme sword was suddenly unsheathed. The dazzling sword light engulfed everything. The newly formed blood-colored demonic beasts were all swept away by the sword light. Many of the blood-colored auras that were still in the process of condensing were directly sliced apart. Let's go. After dealing with all of this, Chu Fengmian's escape light once again flew towards the interior. Almost at the same time, a streak of light also flew into the cave. This kid is actually planning to take the Wanshou treasure? The Wanshou has been guarding here all this time. I don't know what kind of treasure it is, but I can't let that kid get it. Otherwise, there will be no end of trouble. This streak of light was none other than Bai Sha. Although the heaven-ripping claw was enough to force him back, it couldn't kill him directly. After neutralizing the heaven-ripping claw's attack with a supreme secret technique, he hurriedly chased after him. Chase after him. Let's kill this brat. This brat has so many opportunities that it's terrifying. Once I kill him, it will be my greatest opportunity. Bai Sha's escape light also followed closely behind, flying directly into the depths of the cave. This cave was simply a huge maze. Along the way, there were countless branches. A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows. The Wanshou is really cunning. His cave is actually so complicated. However, I have the innate divine beast bloodline, so I can explore where the real treasure is. Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered. Suddenly, his mind moved, and the innate divine beast bloodline was fully activated. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's eyes suddenly locked on to one of the countless mazes. It was here. The aura of the Wanshou was the strongest here. This was the real cave of the Wanshou. After exploring all of this, Chu Fengmian didn't hesitate at all. He directly stepped into it. At the same time, Chu Fengmian sensed that several more figures were suddenly rewarded. There was a total of 7 auras, all of which were demon immortals. Although these 7 auras were not quasi-emperors, they were all demon immortals. However, their auras were stronger than any of the immortal realm experts that Chu Fengmian had ever seen. They stood at the boundary between the immortal realm and the quasi-emperor realm. They were on the same level as the blood god of the Alliance of the Wasteland and Uncle Du, whom Chu Fengmian had once killed. However, Chu Fengmian could sense that these auras weren't like Uncle Du's, which was forcefully activated by a spirit weapon. Instead, they were their own strength. Moreover, this group of people looked like they were in their early 20s. Their faces were still somewhat childish, but their eyes were filled with absolute confidence. It was as if all kinds of danger were nothing in their eyes. These 7 auras rushed into the cave and faced the countless blood-soaked demonic beasts. It was as if they were slaughtering them. They easily exterminated all of the blood-soaked demonic beasts that had just been formed. Master Bai, is the treasure of the Wanshou hidden here? The 7 demon immortals were led by a young man. This young man had an ancient scale on his face, which looked extremely strange. However, this ancient scale seemed to be the source of his strength. This scale had raised his strength to an unimaginable level. Although they were all in the immortal realm, those blood-soaked demonic beasts couldn't even withstand a single blow from him. They were all easily destroyed. This kind of strength was comparable to that of a quasi-emperor. That's right. This is the news from the family. It is said that the treasure of the Wansho is hidden in his cave. Now, our Bai family, along with the Hua family and Lei family of the 8 great sovereign families, are outside, delaying the Wansho so that we can enter and take the treasure of the Wansho. Master Bai said after he killed a blood-soaked demonic beast in front of him with a gentle palm strike. Let's go. It is said that Shu Sha of the Hidden Death Society has already rushed in. We can't delay any longer. This bloody world was created by the heaven-devouring beast. The Wansho is the servant of the heaven-devouring beast. It is highly likely that the treasure he is guarding is the treasure of the heaven-devouring beast. If I can inherit the bloodline of the heaven-devouring beast, then I will possess the bloodline of 2 innate divine beasts. When that time comes, even those monsters in the sacred dragon secret dimension won't be my match. Master Bai said as he continued to fly into the cave. The remaining 6 demon immortals followed closely behind. Although the remaining 6 demon immortals weren't as powerful as Master Bai, they were still on the same level as the blood god of the Alliance of the Wasteland. As for Master Bai, although he wasn't a quasi-emperor, his strength was that of a true quasi-emperor. Even Shu Sha might not be able to do anything to him. Where did this group of genius demon immortals come from? They all have noble bloodlines. Most of their bloodlines aren't inferior to the ancient war dragon. Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. The Bai family should be the most mysterious family among the 8 great royal families. It is said that the current ancient serpent emperor is an old ancestor of the Bai family. He is actually a member of the Bai family. The Bai family was the leader of the 8 great royal families. The ancient serpent emperor was an old ancestor of the Bai family. The Bai family was equivalent to the real royal family of the ancient serpent empire. Its status was even higher than the other 8 great royal families. The Bai family disciples before him were merely the younger generation of the Bai family, but they possessed such terrifying strength. Such a group of demon immortals was simply terrifying. Even if Chu Fengmian encountered them, he wouldn't be in trouble. With their presence, the Thousand Beast Cave was becoming more and more chaotic. However, among this group of people, the one that Chu Fengmian paid attention to the most was Master Bai. This was because Chu Fengmian sensed a familiar power from him. Indeed, it was an extremely familiar power that was very similar to Chu Fengmian's. The Soaring Serpent Bloodline. Chapter 1138. Chu Fengmian's Tongue Serpent bloodline was originally obtained from the young master of the Hua clan. It seemed like the ancestors of the 8 great sovereign clans had obtained the Tongue Serpent bloodline before. At least Master Bai still possessed the Tongue Serpent bloodline. Moreover, it was obtained from Chu Fengmian and was even purer. This made Chu Fengmian instinctively feel the danger of being devoured. If Chu Fengmian could sense it, then Master Bai must have also sensed Chu Fengmian's existence. A mountain could not contain 2 tigers. Moreover, if anyone could obtain 2 portions of the Tongue Serpent bloodline, it would be enough to increase their strength exponentially. They would want to obtain it at all costs. Let's look for the treasure guarded by the 10,000 beasts first. Even if I encounter Master Bai, my Tongue Serpent bloodline might not be as strong as his. However, I still have the power of Tianlong transformation. It won't be a problem to deal with him. Chu Fengmian thought for a while and continued to fly deeper. The appearance of Master Bai made Chu Fengmian feel a sense of crisis. It seemed like Chu Fengmian wasn't the only one who wanted to obtain the 10,000 beast treasure. Those quasi-emperors had joined forces to delay the 10,000 beasts. It seemed like they were trying to buy time for their clansmen. Bai clan wasn't the only clan that was interested in the 10,000 beast treasure. Boom! Boom! More and more experts arrived one after another. The weakest of these auras was at least at the immortal realm. There were even 2 quasi-emperors who had entered. Battles were happening one after another. It was unknown how many experts had arrived in the 10,000 Beast Cave. Chu Fengmian had been prepared for this since Master Bai's appearance. If the Hidden Killer Society could obtain this information, so could the other forces. After all, the 8 great sovereign clans, Ancient Snake Merchant Association, and even Sun Clan were not inferior to the Hidden Killer Society. If the Hidden Killer Society obtained the information, they would naturally get it too. Moreover, the 10,000 Beast treasure was related to the heaven-devouring beast. The treasure of an innate divine beast was enough to make quasi-emperors go crazy. Fortunately, I'm the first to enter. Otherwise, I would have been delayed by those battles outside. Chu Fengmian could sense that the entrance to the Myriad Beast Cave was already in a state of chaos. It was impossible to tell how many experts were fighting outside, or even inside, especially Master Bai's group. No matter if they met martial artists or demon immortals, they would kill them without mercy. Even Du Sha had suffered a loss from them and had fled in a hurry. This group of people ran amok and were about to reach the depths of the cave. Boom! A ray of light flashed by, and at the same time, a huge dragon claw suddenly appeared. It swept through everything, including all the demonic beasts that tried to stop it. This light was Chu Fengmian. The deeper he went into the cave, the more demonic beasts he saw. They could be described as hordes. Fortunately, Chu Fengmian had a holy meridian. His spiritual power was almost limitless. He could use all of his power to wipe out all of these blood-soaked beasts. The strongest among these blood-soaked beasts were still in the immortal realm. No matter how strong they were, they couldn't reach the level of a quasi-emperor. It seemed that the quasi-emperor level blood-soaked beasts couldn't be condensed. They needed to go through bloody battles, comprehend and devour continuously to advance. Although it was a little troublesome, it couldn't stop Chu Fengmian. This should be the deepest part of the cave. The drifting blood qi already contains the power of the heaven-devouring. It's simply devouring spiritual power at any time. Chu Fengmian observed the surroundings and secretly observed the blood qi nearby. These blood qi already contained the heaven-devouring power of the heaven-devouring beast. They were constantly devouring spiritual power. The martial artists and demon immortals who came here had to consume a huge amount of spiritual power at every moment. Someone came here first? When Chu Fengmian entered this place, a figure suddenly flew out from a tunnel beside him. Chu Fengmian saw at a glance that this figure was his sworn enemy, Xu Sha, who had taken advantage of Chu Fengmian's misfortune. It was also him who had entered the cave to hunt down Chu Fengmian. Later, he encountered Master Bai and his party and suffered a small loss. Then, he ran away to some unknown place. Chu Fengmian didn't expect that he would come here by chance and encounter him. Chu Fengmian, it's you? Dark Hill sized up Chu Fengmian with a glance. Suddenly, his eyes revealed an excited expression. I've searched high and low for you, only to find you by chance. You've been running for a long time, but I still found you. Very good. Heavenly Saber, kill. When Xu Sha saw Chu Fengmian, he displayed his killing technique almost without any hesitation. He hated Chu Fengmian to the core. Now that he had encountered Chu Fengmian, he naturally wouldn't be polite. Damn it. Chu Fengmian's eyes revealed some impatience the moment he saw Xu Sha. Xu Sha had been following Chu Fengmian like a fly, and now he had come out to cause trouble again. Right now, Mr. Bai and the others were entering at an incredible speed. It wouldn't be long before they arrived as well. Chu Fengmian had originally planned to get the treasure before anyone else arrived. He didn't expect Xu Sha to come and cause trouble again. You forced me to do this. I was planning to let you live for a while, but now you're going to die. Chu Fengmian glanced at Xu Sha with murderous intent. Xu Sha had been causing trouble for Chu Fengmian for a long time, and Chu Fengmian had long wanted to kill him. Now that Xu Sha had dared to come again, Chu Fengmian's murderous intent exploded. Die! Chu Fengmian roared furiously and suddenly made his move. The power of the soaring serpent transformation was pushed to the limit. An enormous figure of a soaring serpent appeared behind him. At the same time, the battle dragon claw appeared above Chu Fengmian's head and swept forward. The power of 9,999 formations combined into a claw that enveloped Xu Sha and killed him. Do you think I'm not prepared? Heaven and earth in one. When Darkhill saw the sky tearing claw coming at him, he was already prepared. Suddenly, his figure shrank and transformed into a crack that drilled into the space. It was simply fused into one with the surrounding space. The heaven-tearing claw smashed over and actually blasted empty air. Although you're powerful, it's only brute force. You're dreaming if you think you can contend against a true quasi-emperor. Chapter 1139. This move, heaven and earth line, turned his body into a thin line that merged with the space. It could be said that this space belonged to him. No matter how strong the attack was, it would be useless against him. Unless the entire space was shattered, it would be impossible to harm him. Kid, stop struggling. You're not a match for a quasi-emperor. Anyone below a quasi-emperor is an ant. Ming Sha looked at Chu Fengyan and said disdainfully, "Let's see where you can escape to in this cave." "Oh, do you think this secret technique of yours can stop me?" "Unfortunately, it is meaningless." "So what if you're a quasi-emperor?" "Today, I will add another quasi-emperor to the list of quasi-emperors who have died at my hands." Chu Fengyan's expression did not change when he saw that the heaven-ripping claw had been dodged. In an instant, a spiritual sword was suddenly unsheathed from his palm. This beam of sword light cut through the space and slashed towards Lin Fan. Crack! With a loud sound, a crack suddenly appeared in the space where Ming Sha's clone was. So what if Ming Sha could merge with the space? Today, Chu Fengyan would kill this space along with Ming Sha. How is this possible? The space was shattered in an instant. Ming Sha was caught unprepared. This was simply an unimaginable scene. The space had been shattered with a single sword. Chu Fengyan's swordsmanship was even more powerful than his. Night shift. After all, Su Sha was a quasi-emperor. This shock only lasted for a brief moment before he quickly reacted. Suddenly, he used a method, try to move this space away. Still want to escape? Murderous intent surged in Chu Fengyan's eyes. Ming Sha still wanted to escape at this time? If I don't kill him, he will be a disaster. Tianlong change, seal it. A dragon shadow suddenly appeared behind Chu Fengyan. The power of the Tianlong bloodline was completely activated. His bloodline had been upgraded and the power of the Tianlong change had also improved. The Tianlong change sealed the surrounding space. It was as if the space had been frozen and could no longer move. Despite Bai Sha's incredible abilities, he couldn't move at all. Sword. Suddenly, the sword in Chu Fengyan's hand moved. The instant the Dark Killer was frozen, his sword was unsheathed. The razor-sharp sword light shattered the space before him. Ba Sha and the space he had turned into were both shattered. Then, Ba Sha's figure was knocked back to his original form. He coughed up blood and looked miserable. Succubus strike. Murderous spirit. You have to avenge me. It was Chu Fengyan who killed me. He had two types of innate god-beast bloodlines. It was a great opportunity. Kill. We must kill him. When the dark-killing beasts were destroyed by the sword light, Luo Yunyang roared. Even Chu Fengyan could not suppress this roar. After all, this was the final outburst of a quasi-emperor's full strength. Damn it! Chu Fengyan's eyes flashed with anger. This dark-killing beast was trying to drag someone down with him. If these words were to spread, it would definitely be enough to make all the experts in the Myriad Beasts cave view Chu Fengyan as a thorn in their eyes. Whoever could kill Chu Fengyan with the bloodlines of two innate divine beasts would definitely benefit greatly. No matter what, I will kill whoever dares to attack me. Today, I will start a massacre and kill until no one dares to provoke them. Murderous intent surged in Chu Fengyan's eyes. Let's go. His figure disappeared in an instant. Less than a minute after Chu Fengyan left, a few figures, a group of people, flew out from the surrounding caves. This group of people was Master Bai's group. They came here to observe the surrounding space. Master Bai waved his hand, and a water mirror condensed. It was the scene of Chu Fengyan killing the Dark Killer. This person is very strong. The 7 of us joined forces and still let the Dark Killer escape. I didn't expect him to be killed by this person. Master Bai's group looked at the scene in the water mirror and discussed with each other. They were especially amazed when Chu Fengyan shattered the space with a single sword strike. This kind of swordsmanship was simply amazing. Seems like I was right. He really has the bloodline of the soaring serpent. I thought it was the trash of the Mo clan in this cave. I didn't expect it to be this kid. Seems like he killed the trash of the Hua clan. Master Bai looked at it and made a guess. The news of the young master of the Hua clan being killed had already spread among the 8 great sovereign clans, especially since the young master of the Hua clan had the bloodline of the soaring serpent. Now, that Chu Fengmian had the bloodline of the soaring serpent, he immediately understood what had happened. Master Bai, did you discover this person's existence? Hearing Master Bai's words, a young man beside him exclaimed in surprise with a fawning look. Although these people were all geniuses, they were far from being comparable to Master Bai. Now, they were all serving and fawning on Master Bai. Yes, when I entered this cave, I discovered this person's existence. But at that time, I couldn't be sure. Now, it seems like he has obtained the bloodline of the trash of the Hua clan. Originally, I planned to use my means to deal with the trash of the Hua clan and obtain his bloodline. However, the old antiques of the Hua clan are hard to deal with. Now, this kid has come to me. Master Bai's eyes flashed with a cold smile. Indeed, this is the best opportunity for Master Bai. If you kill this kid and devour his bloodline, the people of the Hua clan will not trouble you. They will even thank you. If Master Bai can obtain 2 portions of the soaring serpent's bloodline, your future strength will be limitless. Moreover, this guy didn't just use the soaring serpent's bloodline. He also used the bloodline of an innate divine beast. Another warrior said aloud, "That's the bloodline of our ancestor, Tianlong. This guy is quite capable to be able to devour 2 innate divine beast bloodlines. However, the power of these 2 bloodlines is not pure. My soaring serpent's bloodline is enough to suppress him. As long as we fight, defeating him will be a piece of cake." Master Bai's face was full of confidence. Let's go. Let's continue chasing. I want the treasure of the heaven-devouring beast. I also want this kid's bloodline. When the time comes, the geniuses of the Mo clan and the Tian clan can only be trampled on by me. I can even challenge Big Brother. Chase. Chapter 1140. What's going on? This is the voice of a quasi-emperor. A quasi-emperor has been killed? What a familiar voice. This is Wu Sha, the king of assassins of the Hidden Killer Society. He was actually killed? Who was the one who killed him? Chu Fengmian? What an unfamiliar name. But is it true that Wu Sha mentioned 2 kinds of innate divine beast bloodlines? Is there really someone in the world who can obtain 2 kinds of innate divine beast bloodlines? Could it be a trap? It shouldn't be. Wu Sha's aura has already disappeared. Moreover, he conveyed this message to let Mei Sha and Wu Sha, the 2 kings of assassins of the Hidden Killer Society, avenge him. 2 kinds of innate divine beast bloodlines. Even among the 8 royal families, only the most talented disciples can obtain them. If we obtain one of them, won't we reach the top in a single bound? That's right. The innate divine beast bloodline is the most honorable bloodline in the world. Any one of us who obtains it will truly reach the top in a single bound. Wu Sha, that Chu Fengmian is one person after all. Do you think the people of the Tiger King's mansion can't deal with him alone? Kill, kill, kill. Conversations rang out continuously in the cave. Even though Chu Fengmian had previously killed Wu Sha, they still couldn't suppress their greed for 2 kinds of innate divine beast bloodlines. This was an opportunity to reach the top in a single bound. No one wanted to give it up. On the other side, in an extremely secluded corner of the cave, 2 black figures were hiding there. One of the 2 black figures was an old man. He was the king of assassins of the Hidden Killer Society, whom Chu Fengmian had met before, Wang Sha. The other person was a coquettish young woman. This woman's every move contained a unique charm that was enough to charm people. Even Wang Sha didn't dare to take her for himself. This was because this coquettish young woman's status was even higher than his. Among the 4 kings of assassins of the Hidden Killer Society, this coquettish young woman in front of him was Mei Sha. Wu Sha is actually dead. Currently, both of their expressions were a little ugly. They had clearly heard Shu Sha's words earlier. The two of them were the king of assassins in the secret killer society. Because of this, they had a better understanding of Ho Sha. As an assassin, Ho Sha might not be the strongest when it came to direct combat. However, Su Sha's means of escape were comparable to most quasi-emperors. If Shu Sha had been defeated, they might not have been so shocked. However, Shu Sha had actually died. Defeating a quasi-emperor and killing a quasi-emperor were two completely different concepts. It seems that this kid has more secrets than we thought. He most likely came from that place. Mei Sha's eyes turned as if he was thinking about something. This ability does seem to belong to someone from that place. Are you referring to the mystic realm? Wang Sha was silent for a moment before he spoke. Logically speaking, the people from the secret realm wouldn't casually come out. Moreover, it's impossible for us, the assassin society, to not know anything about the people from the secret realm coming out. He must have used some kind of method. The existence of the secret realm can't be judged by common sense. Mei Sha's eyes flickered as he made his decision. It doesn't matter whether this kid came from the secret realm or not. The fact that he dared to kill Shu Sha is a provocation to the assassin society. Moreover, this person has a shocking encounter. We must kill him. It's best if we can capture him alive and force out all his secrets. All right, with the two of us joining forces, even if this kid has the power to turn the world over, he won't be a match for us. However, the Sun family, the 8 great royal families, and even the 5 Mountain Sword sect have already entered the secret realm. The president is outside dealing with 1,000 beasts. We must also obtain the treasure of the heaven-devouring beast. That kid Chu Fengmian and the treasure of the heaven-devouring beast belong to the assassin society. The two king of assassins chatted with each other as their figures flickered and flew directly into the depths of the 1,000 Beast Cave. There are more and more experts. There are at least a dozen quasi-emperors entering. I didn't expect the ancient Serpent Empire to have so many experts. However, many of these experts might not be from the ancient Serpent Empire. After all, the Sun family, the 5 Mountain Sword sect, and the Assassin Society are all forces that have surpassed the ancient Serpent Empire. However, it is still an eye-opener to see so many quasi-emperors. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. This was the first time Chu Fengmian saw so many quasi-emperors. In the 9 domains, it was not difficult to encounter a quasi-emperor. However, Chu Fengmian knew that there were quasi-emperors in the 7 great sects. However, seeing a dozen quasi-emperors at once still made Chu Fengmian somewhat fearful. Facing a quasi-emperor alone, Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid of anything. However, if he encountered 2 quasi-emperors or 3 quasi-emperors, Chu Fengmian would be in big trouble. Chu Fengmian defeated quasi-emperors by relying on the power of the soaring serpent transformation. If he couldn't end the battle quickly, Chu Fengmian would have to leave when the power of the soaring serpent bloodline was exhausted. Fortunately, these quasi-emperors came from different forces. They would fight with each other and be on guard against each other. At least, they wouldn't gang up on Chu Fengmian. Otherwise, no matter how good the treasures of the heaven-devouring beast were, Chu Fengmian would have to consider how to escape. No matter how good the treasures were, Chu Fengmian wouldn't be able to use them. In the depths of the 1,000 Beast Cave, Chu Fengmian was still flying. However, his speed had obviously slowed down. The deeper he went, the more dangerous it was. Occasionally, there would be some spiritual energy on the walls on both sides of Chu Fengmian. It would directly condense into a heaven-devouring vortex, trying to devour Chu Fengmian. Once this heaven-devouring vortex devoured him, he would truly fall into a state of eternal damnation. Therefore, Chu Fengmian could only be very careful and didn't dare to rush around recklessly like before. Although his speed had decreased, Chu Fengmian could feel that the speed of Master Bai and the others behind him had also decreased significantly. It seemed like they didn't have any way to deal with this heaven-devouring vortex, and could only be very careful. This cave contains such pure heaven-devouring power. I'm afraid the treasure here is at least the blood essence of the heaven-devouring beast. Otherwise, it wouldn't possess such terrifying power. Xing Xian also woke up and helped Chu Fengmian to analyze the situation. Xing Xian didn't care about ordinary things. This was a cave after all. However, when it was related to the heaven-devouring beast, he became alert. It's best if it's the blood essence of the heaven-devouring beast. This way, my second origin source will have an additional power. Chapter 1141. Chu Fengmian's second origin source land had integrated the Tongue Serpent bloodline and Tianlong bloodline into it. If he could obtain the blood essence of the heaven-devouring beast, Chu Fengmian will be able to integrate the bloodline of the heaven-devouring beast into it and control the power of the heaven-devouring beast. The power of the heaven-devouring beast was devouring. It could devour everything in the world. Chu Fengmian had suffered a great loss from the Blood Serpent Emperor. If he could integrate the bloodline of the heaven-devouring beast into it and learn the heaven-devouring secret skill, Chu Fengmian's strength would increase further. A demon immortal with one innate divine beast bloodline was enough to be called a peerless genius. Only a legendary genius could have two innate divine beast bloodlines. A demon immortal with 3 innate divine beast bloodlines was something that no one in the entire ancient monster continent could do. The nobler the bloodline, the greater the potential of the demon immortal. Now that Chu Fengmian had obtained 2 innate divine beast bloodlines by chance, there might not be many people in the entire ancient monster continent who could compare with him in terms of potential. But who would complain about having more potential? Chu Fengmian wanted to conquer the 9 regions and become the only emperor. He had to trample everyone under his feet. The appearance of Master Bai also reminded Chu Fengmian that the world was vast and there were countless geniuses. Master Bai's talent was only a little lower than Chu Fengmian's. If they really fought, Chu Fengmian would be in a lot of trouble. There were also geniuses who surpassed Master Bai. If Chu Fengmian wanted to trample everyone under his feet, he had to constantly improve. No matter what the treasure of the heaven-devouring beast was, Chu Fengmian had to obtain it. While Chu Fengmian pondered, his figure had already passed through countless devouring vortexes. Suddenly, a huge palace appeared in front of Chu Fengmian's eyes. A palace? There's actually a palace in the Thousand Beast Cave? Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed with surprise when he saw the palace. However, upon closer inspection, he found that the palace was extremely ancient. He didn't know how long it had been there. 1,000,000 years? 10,000,000 years? Even after such a long time, the palace still looked brand new and flawless, as if it would never be broken. This kind of method and this kind of palace can only be created by a strong cultivator who can control innate essences. Only innate essences can make billions of immortals. When it came to Chu Fengmian, Xing Xian was clearly more knowledgeable. When he saw the palace, he suddenly spoke. This palace was likely personally refined by the heaven-devouring beast. Heaven-devouring beasts can also forge spiritual weapons. When Chu Fengmian heard Xing Xian's words, he was stunned for a moment. The palace in front of him was obviously a spiritual weapon, even a heaven-grade one. It was at a higher grade than Chu Fengmian's Sword Emperor Palace. Of course, the innate divine beast's intelligence surpasses that of humans and Yao gods. Refining spiritual artifacts is nothing to them. As Xing Xian answered, he looked at the palace with a serious expression. However, innate divine beasts don't bother to refine spiritual weapons. Their physical bodies can easily crush heaven-grade spiritual weapons. Therefore, spiritual weapons are meaningless to them. This heaven-devouring beast must have done it on purpose to refine this palace. Innate divine beasts don't do useless things. The blood qi in the surroundings is the thickest. It's all coming from this palace. Chu Fengmian glanced around. The ancient bronze gate of the palace was completely shut. He couldn't see what was inside the palace. However, judging from the surrounding blood qi, the heaven-devouring beast treasure was most likely inside the palace. Sky-ripping claw. With a thought, Chu Fengmian's battle dragon claw was formed. 9,999 formations burst out and turned into a sky-ripping claw. The sky-ripping claw blasted towards the ancient bronze gate. Boom! When the sky-ripping claw got close to the ancient bronze gate, a huge vortex suddenly appeared from the gate. When this vortex appeared, It seemed like it was going to devour everything in its surroundings. The heaven-ripping claw was immediately swallowed up by the vortex when it struck it. Even Chu Fengyan couldn't help but retreat to avoid the vortex. Luckily, Chu Fengyan was still some distance away from the ancient bronze gate. Otherwise, he would have been devoured by the vortex. How dangerous! This spiritual weapon has existed for millions or even tens of millions of years. How could it still possess such a terrifying power? Chu Fengyan's eyes were locked as he stared at the ancient bronze gate of the palace. He was now sure that this palace was where the treasure was hidden. However, the power of the ancient bronze gate was unfathomable. Chu Fengyan's sky-ripping claw failed to move the ancient bronze gate in the slightest. It's impossible for me to break the ancient bronze gate with my strength alone. Chu Fengyan soon made up his mind. Even if he was strong, he might not be able to break the ancient bronze gate. Furthermore, if he were to act recklessly, the secret devouring technique might be activated again. Chu Fengyan would be consigned to eternal damnation if he wasn't careful. There's actually a palace here? While Chu Fengyan was pondering, a surprised voice suddenly sounded. Then a few rays of light flew in. These rays of light gradually turned into the appearance of 7 young men. It was Master Bai and the others. When they entered the place, they saw the palace at first glance. After all, the Thousand Beasts Cave was a desolate place. It was strange for a palace to appear out of nowhere. It's you, Chu Fengyan? Apart from the palace, Master Bai's eyes suddenly fell on Chu Fengyan. In his eyes, there was undisguised greed and murderous intent. He also had the tongue serpent bloodline. The more he obtained, the purer the tongue serpent bloodline would be. Obtaining the tongue serpent bloodline from Chu Fengyan would bring him great benefits. Moreover, the 8 great sovereign families were the serpent race. With the tongue serpent bloodline in their bodies, they could unleash greater power than the other demon god clans. Oh, you're Chu Fengyan, the one who killed Chu Fengyan? The one who has 2 types of innate divine beast bloodlines? Hearing Master Bai's words, the eagle-eyed man standing beside him suddenly looked at Chu Fengyan. Chapter 1142. The eagle-eyed man sized up Chu Fengyan's cultivation realm and sneered disapprovingly. On the other side of the phone, "Kid, if you come over now and hand over your bloodline, Master Bai will spare your life with his kindness. If you make us attack, your life will be over." Courting death? Chu Fengyan's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He originally planned to join forces with Master Bai and the others to break the bronze gate of the palace first. After all, the longer they delayed, the more experts would arrive at the palace. By then, it wouldn't be easy to get the treasure of the heaven-devouring beast. However, even a man made of mud would be angry after hearing the eagle-eyed man's words, let alone Chu Fengyan, who was easily bullied. Just because of what you said, I can kill you 1,000 times over. Kneel down and apologize now, and I will spare your life. Oh, White Eagle, this kid looks down on you. Ha, I didn't expect a random kid to look down on you. How can you work for Master Bai like this? Many of Master Bai's group laughed after hearing Chu Fengyan's words, as if they had heard something funny. Arrogant. The White Eagle sneered with a hint of anger on his face. Kid, do you really think you can be arrogant after killing Qi Sha, the king of assassins of the Secret Killer Society? Except for the president of the Secret Killer Society, Qi Sha, the rest can only run away when they encounter us. You only defeated a quasi-emperor with your bloodline. Do you think you can compete with our Bai family? Bai family? The 8 sovereign families are just a bunch of trash. Chu Fengyan said coldly. I don't plan to provoke anyone, but whoever dares to provoke me will die. When Chu Fengyan said the word die, Master Bai and the others felt a chill from the bottom of their hearts. 2 quasi-emperors had died in Chu Fengyan's hands. Chu Fengyan had even killed old ancestor Wu, who was in the immortal realm. His killing intent was enough to make countless martial artists transform and feel fear. Trash? The White Eagle suddenly clawed at Chu Fengyan's murderous intent. The Bai clan was the #1 clan in the ancient Serpent Empire, and the current ancient Serpent Emperor was the patriarch of the Bai clan. Although Bai Ying wasn't on the same level as Prince Bai, he was still one of the top geniuses of the Bai clan. In the future, he would most likely step into the emperor realm and become a quasi-emperor. In fact, in the eyes of the Bai family, quasi-emperors were like ants. If he used his full strength, he would be able to compete with a quasi-emperor. Given Xiao Qin's status and strength, even quasi-emperors would have to be polite to him. When had he ever been called trash? In fact, this trash was even more worthy of the 8 great imperial families. Hearing those words, it wasn't just Bai Ying. The Bai family disciples behind him all had anger in their eyes. Even Master Bai looked at Chu Fengyan with cold eyes. Bai Ying, this brat insulted the Bai clan. He deserves to die. Go kill him and extract his bloodline. The bloodline of the soaring serpent is not something this brat is worthy of. Master Bai slowly spoke. Yes, Master. When Bai Ying heard Master Bai's words, he no longer had any scruples. His face revealed a ferocious look. Brat, you're the first one who dares to go against our Bai family. No matter where you come from, anyone who dares to go against our Bai family will have to die. The evils we bring upon ourselves are the hardest to bear. As Bai Ying spoke, he suddenly made his move. He took a step forward, and suddenly, a burst of spirit energy shot out. This burst of spirit energy immediately turned into a long whip. Snake scales could be clearly seen on this long whip. When this whip was lashed out, the surrounding space vibrated. Vaguely, it was enough to mobilize the power of heaven and earth. Mobilizing the power of heaven and earth was the symbol of an Emperor Realm Master. The strength of an Emperor Realm Master meant that they could mobilize the power of heaven and earth. However, Bai Ying was only in the immortal realm, yet he was able to do so. This person also had a kind of secret technique that could raise his strength to the level of a half-step quasi-emperor. No wonder these people could easily beat Zhu Shaowei. However, so what if he had the power of heaven and earth? Chu Fengyan didn't even need to use his full strength to deal with Bai Ying. Sword. Chu Fengyan suddenly unsheathed the ancestral Dragon Supreme sword in his hand. A dazzling sword light swept out. As the dazzling sword light swept across the sky, the whips in the sky were forcefully shattered. At the same time, a huge force forced Bai Ying to retreat. What a powerful sword! What kind of sword technique is this? Bai Ying's face was filled with horror. The moment the two forces collided, he felt a little regretful. The power of this sword was enough to crush him. The disciples of the Bai family had always been invincible in the same realm. Bai Ying's strength was close to the level of a half-step quasi-emperor. Ordinary immortal realm cultivators were not even ants in front of him. Moreover, Chu Fengyan was only in the heavenly fate realm. This brat's sword is so terrifying. How could there be such a terrifying sword in the ancient monster continent? He uses a sword. Could he be from the Five Mountain Sword sect? No, he has the aura of the Dragon Clan. How could he be from a Five Mountain Sword sect? Even the Five Mountain Sword sect sword technique doesn't seem to be as sharp as his sword. The disciples of the Bai family were on par with Bai Ying in terms of strength. Naturally, they could tell how terrifying this sword was. Most likely, none of them would be able to fight against this sword. Interesting. Master Bai looked at Chu Fengyan with a smile on his face. He asked Bai Ying to attack because he wanted to test Chu Fengyan's strength. As expected, Chu Fengyan was forced to use his sword technique. Forget it. Bai Ying, come back. Master Bai suddenly said. Yes. Bai Ying quickly withdrew his strength after hearing Master Bai's words. He no longer looked at Chu Fengyan and turned to leave. Go back. Why? If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't want to fight, then fight. If you want to leave, have you asked for my sword permission? In an instant, sword light flashed and filled the sky. It immediately sealed the space in front of Bai Ying. What is the meaning of this? Master Bai's eyes flashed coldly when he saw this scene. It seems like you really want to be enemies with the Bai family. Enemies with the Bai family? I've said it before. The Bai family is nothing in front of me. Chu Fengyan said disdainfully. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Chapter 1143. Did he really think that Chu Fengyan was a soft persimmon that he could pinch as he wished? Moreover, Bai Ying's whip wasn't a test. It was a killer move. If Chu Fengmian wasn't strong enough, he would have been killed on the spot. Did he think he could leave after being whipped? How could he let him go so easily? White Eagle was too rash. I apologize on his behalf. Master Bai looked at Chu Fengmian and said calmly. Although he said he was apologizing, his tone didn't sound like he was apologizing at all. Instead, he sounded disdainful. So what if Chu Fengmian was strong? They had the Bai family behind them. Did Chu Fengmian dare to go against the Bai family alone? Even if Chu Fengmian dared to go against the Hua family and the Lei family, he wouldn't dare to go against the Bai family. After all, the Bai family was backed by the ancient Serpent Emperor, an absolute overlord in the entire ancient monster continent. Let's go. Master Bai then winked at Bai Ying, who was standing beside him. Just as White Eagle took a step forward, a beam of sword light suddenly shot out and severed one of White Eagle's arms. This was the result of White Eagle suddenly reacting and dodging. Otherwise, White Eagle would have been killed by the sword just now. Chu Fengmian, what is the meaning of this? Master Bai's eyes flashed with killing intent. No one had ever dared to chop off the arm of a Bai family disciple in front of him. Do I accept your apology? Chu Fengmian said calmly. Then what do you want? Master Bai looked at Chu Fengmian and said. He could see that Chu Fengmian was much more powerful than he thought. After the White Eagle's test, Master Bai didn't want to continue the fight with Chu Fengmian. Although killing Chu Fengmian would also bring him great benefits, the heaven-devouring beast treasures were more important than the heaven-devouring beast treasures. If he and Chu Fengmian were to fight to the death, others would only reap the benefits. After all, they weren't the only ones in the Myriad Beast Cave. Leave your life. Chu Fengmian said casually. Leave your life behind? Chu Fengmian, don't go too far. Do you really think the Bai family is afraid of you? Young master, is it just too lazy to kill you now? Let me go quickly, and today's matter can be written off. White Eagle couldn't help but ask when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. You're about to die, yet you still dare to be arrogant? The corners of Chu Fengmian's mouth curled into a cold smile. If this smile was seen by those familiar with Chu Fengmian, they would understand that this was the expression of Chu Fengmian's anger. Die! Suddenly, the sword in Chu Fengmian's hand moved. White Eagle wanted to say something, but his voice suddenly stopped. Several beams of sword light pierced through White Eagle's body and tore it apart. Withdraw! After doing all of this, Chu Fengmian waved his hand and a vortex appeared. It sucked in Bai Ying's body and his blood essence. Bai Ying's empty ring was also taken by Chu Fengmian. There were also 30,000 bloodstones in White Eagle's empty ring. It seemed like he had obtained quite a lot of benefits in the world of blood. White Eagle was killed by this person. What a fast sword. Lunatic, he's really a lunatic. The other disciples of the Bai family were stunned. They didn't expect Chu Fengmian to really attack and kill White Eagle. After all, White Eagle was a genius nurtured by the Bai family. Killing White Eagle was equivalent to becoming an enemy of the Bai family. What shocked them even more was that White Eagle couldn't even put up a fight against Chu Fengmian and was killed. This kind of technique was beyond that of a quasi-emperor. Even a quasi-emperor wouldn't be able to defeat White Eagle easily, let alone kill him with a single sword strike. Master Bai's face was completely gloomy. He stared at Chu Fengmian and said slowly, Very good, very good. Chu Fengmian, I, by Tian Lin, admit defeat for today's matter. However, you have to understand that you'll pay the price one day. Let's go. Master Bai was also a shrewd person. After seeing Chu Fengmian kill White Eagle, he didn't choose to fight with Chu Fengmian, but left immediately. If he fought with Chu Fengmian now, he would most likely die. At that time, they would have the capital to fight for the sky-devouring beast treasure. Soon, Master Bai and his group left. However, they were still near the palace, and, at the same time, they were looking at the bronze door. The aura emitted from the bronze door almost told everyone that the sky-devouring beast treasure was behind the bronze door. But now, no matter who it was, no one could break through the bronze door alone. Master Bai tested it and then stood there, waiting like Chu Fengmian. Someone is one step ahead of us. Soon, a few more rays of light flew in. There were a total of 8 martial artists, and they were all very young men. Each of them was holding a spiritual sword that contained a strong sword intent. In the ancient monster continent, only one force had such sword intent. It was the Five Mountains Sword Sect, one of the three major human forces. Among the three major human forces, the Hidden Killer Society was an assassin organization, the Sun family was a martial arts family, and only the Five Mountains Sword Sect was a normal sect. It could be said that all the sword cultivators in the ancient monster continent came from the Five Mountains Sword Sect. The 8 martial artists of the Five Mountains Sword Sect were also in the immortal realm. They were very similar to Master Bai and his group. They seemed to have cultivated a kind of secret technique that made their strength close to the level of a half-step quasi-emperor. It seems that all the major forces in the ancient monster continent have this kind of secret technique, but the methods are different. However, this secret technique is at most close to the level of a quasi-emperor. It can't be compared to a quasi-emperor, so it's nothing. Seeing the strength of the 8 warriors in front of him, Chu Fengmian also understood. It seemed that the Bai family, the Sun family, and the Five Mountains Sword Sect warriors in front of him should all have cultivated a kind of secret technique, but the method was different. However, although they were close to the level of a quasi-emperor and could be invincible in the immortal realm, Chu Fengmian still didn't take them seriously. Chu Fengmian could even kill a real quasi-emperor, let alone these people who hadn't reached the level of a quasi-emperor. Chapter 1144. The Five Mountains Sword Sect. Master Bai's eyes flashed with fear when he saw this group of people. Master Bai, the Five Mountains Sword Sect martial artist, also saw Master Bai, and fear flashed in his eyes. He then looked at Chu Fengmian and suddenly spoke. Kid, who are you? The Five Mountains Sword Sect martial artist looked Chu Fengmian up and down and suddenly spoke. The major forces of the ancient monster continent communicated with each other. For example, the Five Mountains Sword Sect martial artist and Master Bai's group obviously knew each other. However, Chu Fengmian in front of them was an anomaly. Such an unfamiliar face was obviously not familiar to them. Kid, Senior Brother Wang is asking you a question. Which force are you from? Seeing that Chu Fengmian did not speak, a Five Mountain Sword Sect disciple suddenly stepped forward and spoke in a commanding tone. You dare to come to the Thousand Beasts cave alone? You don't have the right to know who I am. Chu Fengmian did not care at first, but when he heard the Five Mountain Sword Sect disciple's commanding tone, his eyes flashed with unfriendliness. It seemed that everyone was treating Chu Fengmian as a pushover. The Bai family was the first to be bullied, and now the Five Mountain Sword Sect was going to bully him. How arrogant. We, the Five Mountain Sword Sect, don't have the right to know? Who do you think you are? The Five Mountain Sword Sect disciple sneered when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Obviously, he did not care about Chu Fengmian's words and only treated him as a stubborn kid. Although Chu Fengmian had snuck into the Thousand Beasts cave, there was not much danger in the cave. The most dangerous beasts had already been delayed, so it was not surprising that someone had snuck in. Chao Yang, forget it. Don't talk nonsense with this kid. Just make him give up the place. The Five Mountain Sword Sect disciple called Senior Brother Wang suddenly spoke. Senior Brother Wang was the leader of the 8 of them, and he was giving orders. When Chao Yang heard Senior Brother Wang's words, he immediately turned his head and spoke to Chu Fengmian. Kid, did you hear that? Our Five Mountain Sword Sect wants this place. Quickly scram. Otherwise, be careful that my sword doesn't have eyes. Get out, Chu Fengmian said indifferently. Chu Fengmian's current location was the closest to the safety line of the bronze door. It could be said that once the bronze door opened, Chu Fengmian's current location would be the fastest place to rush into the palace. That was why Chu Fengmian chose to stay here. Now it seemed that this Senior Brother Wang of the Five Mountain Sword Sect had also taken a fancy to the place Chu Fengmian was at and wanted to snatch it. Of course, Chu Fengmian wouldn't be courteous to such people. Previously, Chu Fengmian didn't put the Bai family in his eyes. Naturally, the Five Mountain Sword Sect was the same. Anyway, Chu Fengmian had already offended the Hidden Kill Society and the Sun family. It didn't matter if he offended the Five Mountain Sword Sect. What an arrogant kid. Kid, do you know that we're from the Five Mountain Sword Sect? How dare you disobey our orders? Chao Yang stared at Chu Fengmian and said coldly, Five Mountains Sword Sect? Who do you think you are? If you dare to run your mouth again, you'll die. Chu Fengmian bluntly said. There was already some impatience in his tone. He was too lazy to argue with this group of people anymore. It seemed that if he didn't show off his strength in front of others, there would be more flies like this. Chu Fengmian occupied such a good place alone. He would definitely be envied by others. Now, not only the Five Mountain Sword sect, the experts of other forces had also arrived. They observed for a while and also fixed their eyes on Chu Fengmian. The place where Chu Fengmian was at was indeed the best. However, when they saw the surrounding disciples of the Five Mountain Sword sect, they all frowned. The people of the Five Mountain Sword sect weren't easy to deal with. If the Five Mountains Sword sect occupied this place, it would be difficult for them to compete. However, they still wanted to watch the show. How arrogant. Kid, are you courting death? Chao Yang heard Chu Fengmian's words and shouted angrily. I gave you some face, and you still want to take advantage of it? If you don't want to get lost, then die. Sword out, thousand-blade sword, tear everything apart. As Chao Yang roared, the sword in his hand suddenly moved. Out of nowhere, thousands of sword edges suddenly condensed and slashed towards Chu Fengmian. There were real and fake sword edges among these thousands of sword edges. They were so fast that it was impossible to distinguish them. What a strange sword technique. Who is that? That's Xiao Yang of the Five Mountains Sword Sect. It said that his sword technique is extremely strange. It's impossible to distinguish the real from the fake. It said that a quasi-emperor once suffered a loss in his hands. Looks like the kid opposite him is going to be unlucky. I don't know how a heavenly fate realm kid managed to get into the Thousand Beast Cave. Why doesn't he tuck his tail between his legs and behave himself? He actually occupied such a good place. He's going to die. Indeed. It's better not to be too arrogant if he's not strong enough. It doesn't matter if such an arrogant person dies. The surrounding cultivators discussed. They knew Chao Yang, but Chu Fengmian was a completely unfamiliar face. Since he was so unfamiliar, he obviously wasn't a powerful figure and wasn't worthy of their attention. From their point of view, Chu Fengmian was already a dead man in the next moment. They didn't even care about Chu Fengmian's identity. Sword technique? How dare you use a sword in front of me? What a mess of sword technique. It's impossible to distinguish the real from the fake. Break it. Killing intent flashed in Chu Fengmian's eyes. The sword in his hand suddenly moved. With this move, a total of 10,000 sword rays swept across. Chao Yang's 1,000 hard swords were destroyed in an instant. Every single one of these 10,000 sword lights was real. Furthermore, they were even stronger than Chao Yang's sword edge. The surrounding crowd's expression changed drastically. They were all shocked. In their opinion, Chu Fengmian should be killed by Chao Yang very soon. They didn't expect that Chu Fengmian's sword technique was even better. There was actually someone who could surpass the Five Mountain Sword sect in terms of sword technique. The ancient monster continent wasn't like the Nine Domains. There weren't many experts among the martial artists. As for the sword cultivation sect, there was only the Five Mountains Sword sect. In their hearts, the Five Mountains Sword sect represented the pinnacle of sword techniques in the ancient monster continent. Now, Chu Fengmian obviously wasn't from the Five Mountain Sword sect. How could they not be curious when he could display sword techniques that were comparable to or even better than the Five Mountain Sword sects? After the initial shock, the crowd shifted their attention again. This sword technique was indeed amazing, but the Five Mountain Sword sect was more than that. Chapter 1145. Kid, where did you come from? Where did you learn this swordsmanship? Chao Yang was forced back by Chu Fengmian's sword. He looked at Chu Fengmian in surprise. In the ancient monster continent, there were no other swordsmanship sects other than the Five Mountain Sword sect. Even if there were, they would only be small, unknown forces that were not worthy of his attention. Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship was completely different from that of the Five Mountain Sword sect. I told you, you don't deserve to know. Chu Fengmian sneered. Is this all the Five Mountain Sword sect has? How dare you call yourself a swordsmanship sect with such lousy swordsmanship? You should disband as soon as possible. Damn it. Chao Yang was furious when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. He looked at Chu Fengmian with murderous intent. Do you think you can provoke the Five Mountain Sword sect just because you have some superficial swordsmanship? That sword strike, just now, was just a test. Have a taste of this sword strike. Chao Yang's sword moved again. This time, the power of his sword was completely different from before. A golden light was emitted from his sword. The moment the golden light was condensed, a long river of golden light was shot out toward Chu Fengyan. The golden light in this long golden river was the ultimate golden gung qi. It was extremely sharp, and each ray was enough to kill countless experts. Gung metal swordsmanship. Is this the gung metal swordsmanship, one of the 5 most famous swordsmanship of the 5 Mountain Sword sect? To think that Chao Yang would actually use this move. It seems that he is truly enraged. The 5 Mountain Sword sect has always been proud of their swordsmanship. Now that their swordsmanship has been broken, of course they are angry. Do you think this kid can take this move? It's difficult. The power of this move is enough to fight against a quasi-emperor. If this kid wants to escape, he still has a chance. Unfortunately, the martial artist stopped before he finished his words. This was because they saw that Chu Fengyan did not choose to escape in the face of the long river of golden light. Instead, he took a step forward. Is this kid crazy? Does he think that his swordsmanship is comparable to the 5 Mountain Sword sect? Countless people looked at Chu Fengyan as if they were looking at a crazy man. Only Master Bai looked thoughtful. Brat, have a taste of this heptagold river. Die. Chao Yang smiled ferociously, and his sword suddenly fell. The gung metal river shrouded Chu Fengyan's body and sealed him off from all directions. Now, you don't have to think about escaping. Escape? Was there a need to flee when dealing with the heptagold river? Do you think you can hurt me? Chu Fengyan shook his head with a hint of disappointment in his eyes. I thought that the 5 Mountain Sword sect had some tricks up their sleeves. Who would have thought that they were only at this level? Forget it. I won't waste any more time with you. Go to hell. All of a sudden, the ancestral dragon supreme sword in Chu Fengyan's hand shone brightly as he slashed across the sky. Break! Following Chu Fengyan's words, the sword slashed across the sky. As Chu Fengyan had said, the sword slashed across the heptagold river. The heptagold metal river was actually split into 2 from the center, forcibly split apart. At the same time, Chu Fengyan took a step forward and clawed at Chao Yang. Chao Yang's eyes flashed with a hint of fear when he saw the Gungjin River being split apart. Before he could escape, Chu Fengyan's claw had already reached out and grabbed Chao Yang's neck tightly. Fast. Everything happened so fast that it only took an instant. A moment ago, they thought that Chu Fengyan would be drowned by the Gungjin River. But in the next moment, the Gungjin River was destroyed by a single sword strike. At the same time, Chao Yang fell into Chu Fengyan's hands. Is it true that he broke the heptagold river head-on? What kind of swordsmanship is this? Surpassing the 5 Mountains Sword sect? Is there such a person in the ancient monster continent? Chao Yang was easily defeated by this person. Is he a quasi-emperor in disguise? It doesn't seem like it. He is indeed in the heavenly fate realm. But how can he be so strong? Oh no, Chao Yang is in danger. A disciple of the 5 Mountains Sword sect suddenly shouted. The instant Chu Fengyan grabbed Chao Yang in his hand, he actually used his strength. He planned to directly crush Chao Yang to death. Stop! Quick, save Chao Yang! Those who were able to participate in the 1,000 Beast Grotto contest were all geniuses nurtured by the major sections. Chao Yang was no exception. Losing one of them was a huge loss. No one knew how many resources would be wasted to nurture another one. Save Chao Yang first, then deal with that brat. Senior Brother Wang's eyes flickered with anger. Chu Fengyan's attempt to kill Chao Yang in front of him was a provocation. That being said, Senior Brother Wang's sword was aimed directly at Chu Fengyan's chest, aiming to kill him. Obviously, he didn't care about Chao Yang at all. Instead, he wanted to kill Chu Fengyan. He could already tell that Chu Fengyan possessed a swordsmanship that had never appeared in the ancient monster continent. If he could obtain Chu Fengyan's swordsmanship, his strength would reach an unimaginable level. He didn't care about Chao Yang's life at all. If he died, so be it. He said that to confuse Chu Fengyan. But how could Chu Fengyan be so easily fooled? Chu Fengyan had experienced countless battles of life and death. In an instant, he noticed the sword light that Senior Brother Wong was slashing at him. Sky-piercing sword. Chu Fengmian held the ancestral Dragon Supreme sword and slashed at Senior Brother Wong. The two sword lights collided in the air, and a huge force burst out with a loud boom. Senior Brother Wong's sword was instantly shattered layer by layer. Then, a wave of spiritual energy blasted out, and even his figure was directly pushed back. On the other side, Chu Fengmian suddenly made a move and crushed Chao Yang's neck. A vortex suddenly appeared and devoured all of Chao Yang's essence and blood. Seeing this scene, countless people felt a chill in their hearts. This scene meant that even though Chao Yang had stepped into the immortal realm and could be reborn, if all of his flesh and blood were devoured, he would never be able to be reborn again. Everyone didn't feel anything when Chu Fengmian defeated Chao Yang. But killing Chao Yang was completely different. Chao Yang was a genius that the Five Mountain Sword Sect had focused on cultivating. Killing Chao Yang was equivalent to becoming an enemy of the Five Mountain Sword Sect. This was an extremely crazy act. Chapter 1146. Did he really kill Chao Yang? He's so arrogant. The Five Mountain Sword Sect has never suffered such a loss before. That's right. Even the people from the 8 great clans would only defeat and humiliate the Five Mountain Sword Sect. They wouldn't dare to kill the Five Mountains Sword Sect. After all, killing someone would mean falling out with them. There had always been a rule in the ancient monster continent. The disciples of the various forces were not allowed to kill each other. Although there were many fights and disputes between people, at the very most, they could only defeat and humiliate their opponents. They could not kill their opponents. This rule had always been popular in the ancient monster continent. No one had ever dared to break it. After all, this rule was set by all the superpowers in the ancient monster continent. Whoever broke this rule would become the enemy of all the superpowers. Therefore, when Chu Fengmian defeated Chao Yang, no one thought much of it. But now that he had killed Chao Yang, everyone was shocked. You dare to kill someone? Senior Brother Wong looked at Chu Fengmian in shock. He didn't expect Chu Fengmian to kill someone without regard for the rules. So what if I killed him? Let me tell you, I killed the trash from the Bai clan. So what if I kill the Five Mountain Sword Sect disciple? Chu Fengmian said calmly. If he wanted to kill, he would kill without regard for the rules. In this vast world, Chu Fengmian was the biggest rule. Whoever dared to provoke him would die. What? The Bai clan? Buying? Buying was also killed by this person. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, countless onlookers looked at Master Bai and the others. This time, the Bai clan should have sent 7 people to the Myriad Beast Cave. However, there were only 6 of them now. According to Chu Fengmian's words, Bai Ying had been killed by Chu Fengmian. Countless people looked at Chu Fengmian and seemed to have understood. Chu Fengmian was a complete madman. That was why he dared to break the rules. Logically speaking, such a lunatic should have been taken down by the combined efforts of others. But now, no one dared to make a move. Although Chu Fengmian was crazy, he was still extremely powerful. He could easily kill Chao Yang and Bai Ying. Even if Senior Brother Wong or Master Bai wanted to kill Chu Fengmian, they would have to pay a great price. Anyone else who wants to die, feel free to take a step forward. Chu Fengmian glanced at the Five Mountain Sword Sect disciples with disdain in his eyes. The Five Mountain Sword Sect disciples were furious when they saw this. When had the Five Mountain Sword Sect ever suffered such a loss before? So what if he's one step ahead? Brat, don't be too arrogant. When the experts of our Five Mountain Sword Sect arrive, a disciple of the Five Mountains Sword Sect blurted out. As soon as he took a step forward, a sword glow suddenly flashed past. The body of the Five Mountain Sword Sect disciple was torn apart, and his blood essence was devoured. In an instant, he was deader than dead. The sword light was so fast that Senior Brother Wong couldn't stop in time. The Five Mountain Sword Sect disciple had already died at Chu Fengmian's hands. Anyone else? After Chu Fengmian devoured the blood essence of the Five Mountain Sword Sect disciple, he gave it all to the divine tree to devour. Although the blood essence of an ordinary immortal realm expert didn't have much effect on the divine tree, the Five Mountain Sword Sect disciples were all geniuses. However, these disciples of the Five Mountain Sword Sect were all geniuses. The Five Mountain Sword Sect had spent an unknown amount of resources to nurture them. Their essence blood was not inferior to that of a quasi-emperor. After the divine tree devoured the blood essence, its power obviously became stronger. However, this little bit of blood essence was far from enough to make the divine tree's power improve. At the very least, it might be enough to kill all the hundreds of people in front of it. Chu Fengmian smiled when he felt the power of the divine tree increasing. Now, Chu Fengmian hoped that a few more ignorant brats would come forward to die. When the time came, Chu Fengmian would kill them so that their blood essence could be devoured by the divine tree. However, after seeing Chu Fengmian kill another person, although the Five Mountain Sword Sect disciples were extremely angry, no one dared to say anything. Many of them even retreated, fearing that Chu Fengmian would attack again. These two attacks were enough to prove that it was extremely easy for Chu Fengmian to kill them. They wouldn't even have the strength to fight back. For them, the identity of the Five Mountains Sword Sect disciples that they relied on the most was meaningless in front of Chu Fengmian. Do you think that Wang Qianzhong will attack? I don't think so. Wang Qianzhong's strength is enough to fight this brat, but he'll have to pay a huge price to deal with him. The Five Mountain Sword Sect also wants the treasure of the heaven-devouring beast, so they won't risk their lives. However, it'll be different when the treasure has an owner. The Five Mountain Sword Sect definitely won't take this lying down. It's just that they can't risk their lives now. This brat has been arrogant for a while. Now, most of the experts are not willing to waste their strength to deal with him. That's why he's so arrogant. Among those present, there were martial artists who could fight with Chu Fengmian or even surpass him in strength. However, no one was willing to take the lead. After all, the treasure of the heaven-devouring beast was of great importance. They had to save up their strength to fight for the treasure of the heaven-devouring beast. Chu Fengmian, my name is Wang Qianzhong. I'll take your head when the treasure has an owner. Senior brother Wang of the Five Mountain Sword Sect, Wang Qianzhong, looked at Chu Fengmian and shouted coldly. He then turned around and left for another place. As for the warriors in that place, they were all driven away. After all, those who dared to fight with the Five Mountain Sword Sect, except for Chu Fengmian, had some scruples. Chu Fengmian occupied the best position alone, but no one dared to fight for it. Many warriors even hid far away. Not to mention Chu Fengmian's crazy personality. If he were to stand closer, the Bai family and the Five Mountain Sword Sect would also be implicated. As a result, there was a large area around Chu Fengmian with no one around. The other warriors who had just arrived were also a little surprised when they saw the scene in front of them. However, no one attacked Chu Fengmian. Instead, they talked to the others. The fact that the others did not attack proved that Chu Fengmian was not a person to be trifled with. This also made Chu Fengmian sigh. Chu Fengmian's character had always been to return an eye for an eye. If the other warriors did not attack, Chu Fengmian would not take the initiative to kill them. However, this way, the divine tree would not need the blood essence. Chapter 1147. Suddenly, a silent voice rang out. The instant this voice was heard, countless gazes from the crowd suddenly turned to look in that direction. It was not because of the voice, but because 10 odd auras appeared with the voice. Every one of these auras was no weaker than Chao Yang's and the White Eagle's. There were even 2 quasi-emperors among these auras. 10 odd beams of light flew to the front of the palace. Immediately, a horrifying emperor's might enveloped the place, forcing many nearby cultivators to back away, opening up a large space. At this moment, the 2 quasi-emperors withdrew their auras and waited respectfully for a young man to walk out slowly. What a grand lineup! Who is this person? 2 quasi-emperors. These 2 quasi-emperors are actually so respectful to this young man. What strong strength! There's also an aura. Is this dragon might? These people are actually from a dragon race? Wasn't the divine dragon empire sealed? Why are the dragon race people here? Aren't those 2 quasi-emperors the divine dragon empire's tyrant prince and Wei prince? Aren't the 2 of them following the 4th prince? This young man before us is the divine dragon empire's 4th prince. Shock flashed in the eyes of countless experts. Clearly, they had not expected this group of people to appear. The Divine Dragon Empire sealed itself half a year ago. Logically speaking, each seal would last at least 1 year. Unexpectedly, it ended early. Humph! How dare they discuss the matters of our Divine Dragon Empire? Tyrant Prince, deal with them. The Divine Dragon Empire's fourth prince walked out and happened to hear the crowd's discussion. He frowned and shouted coldly. Yes, that quasi-emperor, the Tyrant Prince, suddenly made a move. He suddenly grabbed at the 5 cultivators present at the same time. Those 5 cultivators had not expected such a calamity. They all tried to gather their energy to block. You dare to block a quasi-emperor? Die! The Tyrant Prince shouted coldly. A dragon claw materialized and swept out. The 5 cultivators who were discussing earlier were all killed. Their essence blood was completely consumed in the air, and they lost any chance of rebirth. Tyrannical. This Tyrant Prince was as tyrannical as his name. Just because someone talked about him, he killed everyone. However, everyone clearly understood that the person who was truly domineering was the 4th prince. It was precisely because he had spoken that the Tyrant Prince had acted. However, the 5 martialists who had died clearly didn't have much of background. The Tyrant Prince didn't make a move even though the martialists with real backgrounds had discussed it. This move was also a show of force. When the other cultivators saw the Divine Dragon Empire's group walking over, they quickly retreated, not daring to snatch this spot. Someone from the Divine Dragon Empire. Before this group of people arrived, Chu Fengmian had already sensed the aura of the Dragon Clan. Now that Chu Fengmian could be considered half a dragon, he was naturally extremely sensitive to the aura of the Dragon Clan. Xiao Chun had long heard that the ancient Fiend continent had a dragon race empire, the Divine Dragon Empire. However, this was his first time seeing it. However, it was similar to Chu Fengmian's expectations. The bloodlines of the Divine Dragon Empire's people were not very pure. At the very least, they were far from comparable to Chu Fengmian's bloodline. Chu Fengmian's bloodline was the purest war dragon bloodline. Aside from the dragon race's bloodline, which contained the bloodline of primogenitor Tianlong, it was the noblest bloodline. Furthermore, Chu Fengmian's bloodline also contained primogenitor Tianlong's essence blood. This made his bloodline the noblest of the dragon race. At the very least, the 4th prince before Chu Fengmian was much weaker than him. Of course, the 4th prince's bloodline was already of a high rank in the dragon race. Otherwise, he would not be called a prince. The Divine Dragon Empire's Divine Dragon Emperor did not have any descendants. These so-called princes were actually dragon race members with extremely pure bloodlines. They were heavily nurtured, so they were called princes. Your Highness 4th Prince, it looks like the heaven-swallowing beast treasure trove has not been opened yet. After the Tyrant Prince finished killing, he returned to the 4th Prince's side and said respectfully, "We can find a place to wait." Humph! These ants still intend to compete with our Divine Dragon Empire for the treasure trove? The 4th Prince swept his gaze over the surrounding crowd, disdain flashing in his eyes. A bunch of trash. Whoever dares to compete with this prince for the treasure trove will die. Tyrant Prince, listen up. Prince Wei, you all listen up. When the treasure trove opens, kill whoever dares to enter without mercy. The 4th Prince said coldly. His words were a supreme order. The threat in his words was self-evident. When the surrounding warriors heard these words, they were furious, but they did not dare to say anything. After all, they had witnessed the 4th Prince's ruthless methods. Even if they died, the factions behind them would not dare to take revenge for them and deal with the 4th Prince. If they died, their deaths would be in vain. This 4th Prince is rather arrogant. It looks like the 4th Prince's faction is stronger among the 8 royal clans. However, this is normal. Of the 3 great empires, the Divine Dragon Empire has always been the strongest. Furthermore, the Divine Dragon Empire only has 1 royal clan, unlike the 8 royal clans that are scattered. When Chu Fengmian saw this scene, he thought to himself, right now, the 4th Prince's faction had 2 quasi-emperors. They were definitely the strongest faction. However, aside from them, there were also 5 or 6 quasi-emperors hidden here. However, they were all concealing themselves and did not show themselves. These quasi-emperors were all here for the heaven-swallowing beast's treasure trove. Naturally, they would not show themselves now to compete for the treasure trove. Just as Chu Fengyan was thinking, he suddenly noticed that the fourth prince's gaze seemed to be looking at him. Dragon race? Unexpectedly, a dragon race member came out during the period of the nation's conferment. That fourth prince sized up Chu Fengyan and revealed a cold smile. Go. Since we ran into a dragon race member, get that brat to come over and serve this prince. Yes. A middle-aged man standing beside the fourth prince moved and walked over to Chu Fengyan. After sizing up Chu Fengyan, he said coldly, Kid, come over. Brat, come here. The fourth prince needs you to work for him. This was not a discussion, but an order. This was especially so when the middle-aged man mentioned serving the fourth prince. His tone was filled with pride, as if he was rewarding Chu Fengyan. Interesting. The fourth prince actually sought out this fellow. When the surrounding people saw this scene, their eyes lit up. There was going to be a commotion. Do you guys think that this brat will still be arrogant? This person looks like a member of the dragon race. The fourth prince's position in the dragon race is supreme. However, he does not look like the kind of person who will listen. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.